Today we are celebrating the 10th anniversary of Amiibo.
Look at our cool set. We have decked out our set for the 10th anniversary.
Our set. Amiibo was such an interesting thing that launched while we were at Nintendo. We worked through a lot of like the initial launch stuff for Amiibo, and then of course all the years after that. But it's such an interesting time for Nintendo. We have a lot of stories that we want to share with you about Amiibo, and it's just fun to imagine like what might happen. What is the future of Amiibo?
Yeah.
You know, the options are open.
Yeah, it came out November 21st, 2014, which is to this day, as this podcast is releasing.
To the
10
day.
years exact. So we simply had to do this. We had no choice. But it's a fascinating story to tell. And as always with us, it is the untold story.
It is very untold.
The story not getting anywhere else.
Yes, this is the untold story. We definitely, like, when we were putting together the outline for this episode, we basically, like, had this really fun trip down memory lane.
Yes.
Where we remembered all the things that were zany and strange and amazing that happened when we first launched this amazing thing.
That's right.
So there you go.
It's going to be fantastic. We're going to get into it in a moment. But we had a fun thing we did yesterday, which was we wrapped up all the stuff we're doing for our spoiler cast on the 1993 Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah.
We did the actual spoiler cast a couple days ago, but yesterday we did our watch-along commentary.
Yeah. So
that was really fun too.
That was the first time we watched the movie together, actually.
Yes.
So we had both seen it like separately a couple times, and then we did the spoiler cast. And then as part of the spoiler cast, if you get the spoiler cast, it'll just be one long video or audio file. You'll get the watch along as well of us just like commenting as the movie plays, and it was really fun. So I guess now collectively, we've each watched the movie 3 times.
I may have a 4th in my future because we got such a cool package in the mail from amazing Patreon subscriber Ryan Haas, who is deep in the fan community for the Mario movie. He's got this incredible website that he runs. He worked on this like sequel comic, envisioning like what would have happened, and he's like, I was involved in this new Blu-ray release that just came out, and I'd like to send you one. And I said, I would love to see that because we're working on this spoiler cast, and need to check it out. And he sent us the
deluxe
mega bonkers supersized edition that has so much stuff. It has like the movie with like a million different commentaries, including one from him. It's got like the literal movie script.
That thing is so cool.
In a book. It has a book with all of the like behind the scenes photos, props,
thick books too,
special effects. That was like 500 pages.
I know. I was surprised at how much content it was.
Some like reprint of an old magazine. I was like, I cannot believe this is like the holy grail if you're into this movie. Like most movies that like are considered like popular movies don't even get this kind of treatment.
I know. It's amazing.
Can you believe that?
I really can't because I this movie was such like a cult classic / something that I had actively avoided. And then now that, we've both watched it and we actually like the movie. So it's been fun to see all of this other material that Ryan has archived and just done so much work on preserving.
Yes.
It is unfortunate that not more things get this treatment because it is incredible how much history, how much drama, just everything that goes into making a movie that you can really chronicle in this way.
Yeah, I mean, I may have been, one of the few people who did this because you don't get it anymore, but like in the era of DVDs and then Blu-rays, like I really did look at like, what are the special features on this?
Yeah,
and
I liked that a lot.
And I would geek out on that stuff, and I would always watch it, and all the commentaries. I loved listening to those if it was a movie that I was going to plan to watch again and again. Yeah. It's like, well, this would be a fun new way to do it. But now it's like, if you stream something, you just get that.
I know.
So it's like this new era is more convenient, but there are a lot of these other kinds of bells and whistles that are just kind of gone.
Yeah.
So when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is like the uber deluxe version of what I used to love about buying a movie.
Yeah, this is way even more than that. Like, it was so cool just like holding the printed scripts physically.
Is this going to bring you back to physical media? Are you running to Walmart and buying a Blu-ray player?
I do love like the idea of these kind of collector's edition physical media. I think that's really special because it makes it feel just that, like special, where like this is like a collector's edition. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to buy like every movie I watch physical.
Well, remember when we went to the retro game store in San Jose, he was like, the hot thing right now is VHS tapes.
Yeah, VHS.
And it's like college students who are buying it. And I actually have a bone to pick with you. I'm going to air out some dirty laundry about you right now.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
I asked you a question because when we were at Nintendo, you had in your office or in the Nintendo Minute Studio, you had, I guess, did you have this in college or when did you get this?
Yeah, it was in my college dorm room, but basically it was like this little CRT.
A small, like all-in-one CRT TV
plus
with
VCR.
With a VCR built in.
Yeah, because I used to watch VHS tapes all the time.
Right.
So I had that in my childhood room and then I took it with me.
Right, and then I asked you recently, like, hey, whatever happened to that? And you said...
I think I left it at Nintendo.
And I've never been more mad at you.
I don't know where it is anymore.
Why would you do that?
I don't remember. I think it was like
I'm about to unleash on you.
There was like the craze of moving, and I remember I was like really stressed out, trying to shove everything to my tiny car.
Well, now I'm stressed out.
Oh no!
Yeah.
We can buy another one.
I don't want to.
Why not?
Can we get if we can get the Shrek all-in-one, then maybe it'll be an upgrade. But
there's also a Hello Kitty version of that.
I don't want that one.
Why not?
I want the Shrek one.
You want the Shrek one with the little antennas?
It's like, I don't know, we do have some like retro systems here, you know.
It's pretty cool that it had a VHS
We've had to buy all these adapters, like how do I even plug this into a modern TV? Like there is something to be said for...
Yeah, true.
And like there's all these debates that are always happening of like, well, this is what a retro game is supposed to look like on a CRT versus like, you know, on a modern monitor it looks very different. The intent of the, you know, artists were very different. And I'm not going to go all the way down that rabbit hole, but it would be a nice thing for some certain purposes to just have around. But we can't do that now because of vibes.
It does have a vibe effect. Of like
the vibe right now is me being bummed out.
Your cozy childhood bedroom with your little like CRT, watching your Disney VHS, playing a little SNES.
It's amazing how we survived on small TVs for a really long time.
I used to have one of those little handheld ones too.
Oh, those were garbage.
It was like the screen was like the size
those
of
were truly, with the world's longest antenna.
The world's long,
and
I used to walk around with that thing all the time.
And do what? Look at fuzz?
I was like looking at like...
You couldn't see anything.
Like you could see a little bit. Like sometimes you can watch like Tom and Jerry cartoons when they're airing.
Yeah, but I think in college, like I had like, it was maybe like a sub 20-inch TV that we all crowded around. It was totally fine. Like this is great, and like now it's like, oh, it's not 60 inches, forget it. Lame.
Wow. Isn't that the simpler times, you know? Such simple times.
It was.
But anyways, we had so much fun doing the Mario movie spoiler cast. It was our first time doing a movie as a spoiler cast, and we had a lot of fun. I think it opens the door for some other options. But next month, back to games. Mario and Luigi Brothership will be our spoiler cast game for December.
At the moment it is. You seem to be very hot and cold.
Well, I committed to finishing this game, so that's what I'm doing.
Well, clearly your commitment means nothing.
What?
That's what I'm learning.
Wow.
Something else we're in the midst of doing this week is our next Super Kit and Krysta 64, which is us documenting a whole week in our lives. Mm-hmm. So we're in the middle of that every day. We're doing some vlogging of just around the office, what's going on. And it's a lot of things. So we did a studio tour when we first moved in here to this space. It was like days
after we moved in.
Which is right about a year ago.
Yeah.
We just renewed the lease. So we're going to be here a while longer.
Yes,
people should know. We're not going anywhere.
I like this place.
It's great.
It works really well for us.
But I went back and watched it, and I thought, wow, it was really more bare bones than I remembered it being. So we're doing like a big updated office/studio tour, so you can see, you know, where everything is, where, you know, how we've decorated the place, you know, where we record different things in here. But then it's also like, what do we do in a week? Like, how do we get ready for a podcast? How do we do this, do that? So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a different kind of episode. But it'll be fun.
But it's kind of nice to just like show you all the stuff that we do that you don't see, that we're not, like when we're not recording the podcast, we have so much other stuff that we're doing.
Right.
So it's kind of fun to just like document all of that. So, and then we're going to be doing fun stuff this week too. We are putting up our holiday decorations, which will be nice. I went to an event at Digital Eclipse to see the new Power Rangers game.
Yep.
We're going to include that in the
You're going to be talking about that in probably about an hour. So
as well, and I'll be talking about that game, but I'll be including some clips of me going to Digital Eclipse, which is in Oakland, Emeryville, sorry, in that vlog too. So you can see their office and stuff, which is really cool. But yeah, should be fun.
Yeah. All those things will be out soonish. We don't know exactly when. We're still working on them.
We are. It is going to be Thanksgiving, which is a big holiday here in the U.S. If you're not in the U.S.
We have been doing a lot of work to try and get ahead of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's coming up really soon. And so we're just trying to figure out the schedule with that big holiday. And then we're also obviously going to try to spend some time with our families for Thanksgiving, which would be nice as well.
Let's talk about all these amiibo and the story of amiibo. But first, we got to shout out our great sponsor. This podcast is sponsored by Turtle Beach.
Thank you.
You won't be hearing Santa coming down the chimney this Christmas Eve if you get Turtle Beach's new Stealth 700 gaming headset. Turtle Beach's Stealth 700 Gen 3 headset picks up so much crystal clear sound in the game that it's basically cheating. Santa could crash land right in your living room and you wouldn't even notice.
It's true.
We have this headset.
It's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah.
I use it nightly.
I do too.
For all of my gaming right now.
Me too. Yeah.
Exclusively.
And it's true. Like you can, like I game in my living room, and there's obviously like other people living at my house, so they're crashing around and doing whatever else.
Wow, what's happening in your house?
I don't know. Like they're the living room's very open to like the kitchen and the whatever. Right. Dogs are everywhere.
There's some nighttime like sledgehammering on the walls. That's happening. No big deal.
Someone's in the kitchen doing something or whatever. It does block out all that stuff. Yes. I can concentrate on, my game. The audio quality is so nice, and it's very comfortable.
That is the main thing, because it's like if you're gaming, you might be doing that for a couple hours.
Yes.
And like since there's some other headsets, like you kind of start to feel it, or it's like too heavy, or it's like something on your ears like doesn't feel right. But I have never had like an issue with this thing.
This is like a girl problem, or I guess other people that wear a lot of earrings.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that.
I have a couple piercings.
I had not even thought of that. But why would I?
I mean, you could get an earring, then you can think about it.
Why would I?
But I have like a piercing on my cartilage and like other piercings, and sometimes the headphones will press my ear against the back of my neck, and the back of the earring basically like stabs you in the back of the neck. That is very important to me. The headset does not do that, and because it goes over the ear in such a nice way that it's not like pressing my earrings like into my head.
That is a great point.
I think this is a very personal problem, or like other people that have a lot of piercings.
That sounds relevant to a lot of people.
It's a small thing, but I really like it for that because it makes it so comfortable. A lot of times I'm like taking headphones off because it's like hurting. I'm getting like a headache from it, but I do not have any issues with this.
It's also like 80 hours battery.
Oh, I rarely charge it.
Again, it's like the Switch Pro controller
of
headsets.
Maybe like once every, I don't know.
Sometimes I'm like, surely this is the time. Well, I'll have no battery, but it's like, no, I'm gaming for several more hours. And
it's no problem at all.
Eventually, I probably will, but
it's not a PS5
I have
controller.
not done it in a very long time. But yes, Turtle Beach has more than just headsets, all sorts of other gaming accessories, flight and racing simulate controllers, keyboards, mice, you name it. So. Get the ultimate immersive gaming experience with Turtle Beach today. For a limited time only, head to turtlebeach.com and use code Kit Krysta for 10% off your entire order. That's 10% off your order at turtlebeach.com with promo code Kit Krysta. Don't delay, get the perfect gift now. Happy holidays from Turtle Beach.
That's so nice. This is a great gift for somebody.
It is.
The link is here. The QR code is here. Also in the description below.
Yes.
Get your discount, people.
All right. Amiibo, as the little tagline went.
Done.
The story of Amiibo really begins before Amiibo existed. It kind of is part of the story of Toys to Life.
What a time that was.
Which was a wonderful, magical time in the industry. It kind of felt like it was like...
in between things.
An extension of the like rock band era.
Yes.
The Guitar Hero era of like... plastic instruments, accessorizing, other things.
Physicality within a digital experience.
Exactly.
And it was an interesting time, though, because it kind of did feel a little bit like in between things. Like, it was not like the start of a brand new hardware generation. It was sort of like in the middle of a hardware generation, and it also felt, I mean, especially to us, because we were at Nintendo, it was the Wii U days, it felt a little bit like just a little bit muted and a little bit boring. So Toys to Life really kind of, I don't know, it was like a nice little different thing that happened. And it was like, we all enjoyed this. You especially.
I got way deep into it,
You got way deep into Skylanders. But I think a lot of people, people at the Nintendo office, all of our friends, we were all like very much convinced in the Toys to Life kind of.
Yeah.
We were buying the Skylanders and the Disney Infinities, and we were into it.
So like I said, Amiibo didn't come out until 2014, but Skylanders first came out in 2011.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the first big push into it. And like ironically, like there's that story that's out there that, Nintendo got offered exclusivity on Skylanders and declined it.
Yeah.
And there's some really funny quotes from Activision or from the developer, and they're saying like Nintendo's going to regret this until the final day, like really strongly worded comments. And now Skylanders are completely kaput to my sadness.
Yeah.
But I was super into Skylanders for several years. It was like the Activision thing where they annualized it and they did kind of just drive it into the ground.
Yeah.
But for those first, I'd say 3 years, 3 entries, like it was really good, like really solid games, really fun multiplayer games, like really like imaginative characters, well-made figures. I still have all of those.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the Skylanders revival. Phil Spencer, I know you're listening. Do it, please, for me.
It could happen.
Thank you.
And I remember just like, there was kind of a magic in this idea of scanning the thing in real life.
Yeah, it always had a fun animation of like, now it's going into the game.
It goes in, like there's something very tactile about it because you are like holding the figure in your hand and like there is like this physicality to it, and then yes, they do a really good job of making you feel like, yes, this is the thing that is like magically transported into the game. And I don't know, there's still magic to that, I think. Even to this day, when I scan an amiibo and something happens, there's still a little bit of like, ooh, that's cool, you know?
Yeah, totally.
So they were on to something with this idea, I think.
After that, there was Disney Infinity in 2013. Little trivia, one of the key people involved in developing Disney Infinity, his name is John Vignacchi.
Yeah.
Now works
at Nintendo.
On the third-party team.
John is awesome.
More trivia, he has the strongest crush your hand handshake in the industry. Do not shake that man's hand.
He'll
break your hand.
And I thought that I was going to be injured for life.
Otherwise, he's very
with this hand.
Otherwise, he's very nice.
Please don't crush it.
Yes.
I need this hand.
I don't think he's doing it intentionally. He doesn't know his own strength.
He's very enthusiastic and he's very, very happy all the time. I don't think I've ever seen him like mad or sad or anything except for just like joyfully happy, which I love. It's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did get Disney Infinity.
You were not as into it. I love Disney Infinity.
It had a bit more of like a make your own game kind of. There was content that was pre-made that was in there, but a lot of it was like create your own world, like mash up these characters. It just wasn't the kind of experience that I was looking for. I will say the Disney Infinity figures were really nice.
Yeah.
I do own a lot of the Star Wars figures because to me they're just like action figures.
That's what I liked about it because I'm a huge Disney fan.
Super
so it was more
well
like a collectible kind of thing because the figures were so nice.
Right.
The gameplay, I think gameplay-wise, I like Skylanders more, and we played so much multiplayer Skylanders.
Yeah.
It was so fun. Disney Infinity, I took a more of a collector's approach. I just wanted to buy the figures of my favorite Disney characters. Which also, works in this instance because you can still have fun with them even if you didn't play the game all the time.
And then there were others. There was like the Lego Dimensions. There were others.
Yes, Lego Dimensions. Oh my gosh.
And then before you knew it, like it was kind of crashing before your eyes. But Nintendo's first step happened actually pre-Amiibo as well. You may remember in May 2013 they released Pokemon Rumble U, which had these kind of proto Amiibo NFC
but
figures.
They were NFC.
And darn it, I forgot to bring one in. I have a few of those. I should have.
Just take a photo. We'll insert the photo here.
Oh, I'm mad now.
We'll insert the photo. The magic of editing.
Man.
We'll insert the photo.
And that game, Pokemon Rumble games are just kind of like flimsy, like beat 'em up kind of games.
Yeah.
And I can't remember exactly what they did, but they looked like Amiibo, but
they
like had
physical little
the Pokemon
things.
Rumble characters, the toy Pokemon, and you could do stuff with
they're
those.
They're really teeny too.
Yeah.
They were like a lot smaller than Amiibo.
And like Amiibo, on the NFC point on the gamepad, that's how you would scan those.
Yeah.
So it was like, all right, we're starting to go down this path into this sort of toys to life space. This was a very small thing, though. Like, I don't think
single game. There's nothing else.
I don't think there's a ton of those out there.
There aren't.
I don't have a full set. I just have like a handful that they gave us. Like, here, check these out. It's like, all right, interesting. But when did we first learn about Amiibo? What did we think? So Amiibo was first mentioned in May 2014 in an investor meeting.
Yeah.
And in that, Mr. Iwata really talked about how he had a again, go to the Nintendo IR site. And you can learn a lot.
Yes.
That is a site anybody can go to. You can just click on what...
There's English?
can I see Mr. Iwata's full PowerPoint with all this, the notes and everything? Yes, you can. So I went back to that and we found it, and he had a very long presentation about IP expansion.
Right.
And he was saying, we have a lot of things on the horizon that I can't talk about today, which would become the things that Nintendo's doing now.
Right.
But he did talk at great depth about what would become Amiibo, and they had the code name of NF. Where is it here? Darn it. Well, they had a code name for it, and he was talking about how, this is our first practical step into this IP expansion area. And very soon, people can have these in their hand. They're going to play a valuable role. You'll be able to see our IP in a store. That was a big point for him. Like, you just walk by a shelf, like, oh, that's Mario.
That's Mario.
I'm going to walk up and I'm going to want to find out what that is. But when exactly did we find out about Amiibo, and what did you think of it?
Yeah, I think it was just a little bit prior to that. There was definitely some meetings we were a part of where they were talking about the announcement upcoming for Amiibo, and Mr. Iwata did share his vision.
Here, the code name was NFP, which stood for Nintendo Figurine Platform.
Yes.
Is what it stood for.
Yeah. And I remember, he was really good. Again, we talked a lot about how Mr. Iwata was very active in terms of coming to the different global offices to share his vision and to make sure that all the teams, understood how he was thinking about something and how we should be thinking about it and how we should be marketing it and how does this fit into Nintendo's sort of overall business structure. I always appreciated that about him because he was just so forthcoming with that information, and it helped us do our jobs well. So he did share his vision for what these were. And, obviously there was some sentiment in the office of yes, we're in a downtime right now. Wii U is not doing that well for us. We need other things to keep Nintendo top of mind for people. His idea around we need to have people physically see Nintendo characters was a way of doing that. It's if they're not going to be buying a Wii U and playing these games, how else are they going to remember Nintendo? One way is that they'll see a character like Mario in a store and be like, oh yeah, Mario.
Yeah.
So that part, yes, it stemmed from sort of Wii U not doing very well and Nintendo sort of failing in the video game side of it, but it did kind of catalyze the non-video game side of it, which is sort of the beginning of them becoming a more of this bigger entertainment company.
Yeah.
So this was really a physical manifestation of that idea of Nintendo turning from purely a video game company to an entertainment company happening. This was the first thing that we really worked on that was in that realm, which is kind of interesting.
And if you recall from our DS anniversary episode a couple weeks ago, the intention for that was to be this third pillar.
Yeah.
You have GameCube, you have Game Boy Advance, you have DS.
Yeah.
That they're all kind of feeding into the business.
Right.
And that was always the implication that we got for this. Is this is becoming a new pillar. It's yes, we do need to find new ways to kind of prop the business up through this hard time, but there was this kind of higher aspiration of no, this can be a long-term product category for us. It is tapping into Nintendo's history as a toy company before getting into games. So absolutely right about everything he said about the IP and making it more visible and letting people experience it in new ways. That absolutely still is very valid now. So it made a lot of sense. One other thing they noted was that this was a project that was led by Shinya Takahashi, who at the time was not a name that we knew super well, but obviously now he's the guy who you see in Nintendo Directs.
Yeah.
He's the guy who oversees
all of the development
all
teams.
game development at Nintendo, but this was kind of a pet project for him.
Yeah, really interesting because I think he really came up through this era, and now he is in charge of all of it.
Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, and we got we also learned hey, these are going to be very closely connected with Super Smash Brothers for Wii U, which was oh, that was a big kind of moment.
Wow.
It was we're really taking this seriously. It was the intention is we're going to make one for all the characters, and it's well, that's going to be a
lot of characters.
That's going to be a lot. I wonder how we're going to do that.
Yeah.
But you did kind of have a sense of relief of okay, this is going to be attached to this huge game.
Yeah.
It's going to have a really solid kind of foundation to work off of. I think we wondered kind of what what are we going to do beyond that?
Right.
But at the very least, it was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. This feels like it's going to be successful to the degree that it needs to be.
And that there was going to be like ongoing support for it. Because we were a little bit concerned that like it was going to be like launched and then we would not have anything new to share for like several months.
Little did we know.
Years. Little did we know
it was going to be the complete opposite.
It was going to be literally like our job forever. Which is kind of crazy.
And I remember in that first meeting, you know, there was a lot of talk of like the name, because again, for us, up to that point, it was just NFPs. And then we heard like, oh, the name is Amiibo. And obviously everybody asked like, well, what does that mean? Yeah. How did you come up with that? Of course, the lowercase a.
Yes.
Never capitalize the A. And they're kind of explaining.
And then the me with the 2 eyes as well.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of a mashup of different things. It's always fun when you can do this. It's like mash up a bunch of things to create a new word. So there's ami, which means friend in French. It sounds like this was not the intention, but something that happened in the end. Is it does sound like amigo, which is friend in Spanish.
Yeah.
You do have the me, the M-I-I, which it was always meant to, symbolize the personalization aspect of like there are things you can do with your amiibo that will make it personal to you.
Obviously, me's were connected to the we.
Right, that you will want to carry it around with you, take it to a friend, and so on. And then finally, the bow, in Japanese, the bow is often shortened to signify robot.
Yeah, like Aibo.
Right, so Sony has that robot dog called Aibo. I think there's other things in Japan that are kind of robotic in a sense. So it's like these things kind of have a mind of their own. Again, if you look at it in the Smash Brothers context.
Yeah, they're like training.
I can kind of understand it's a robotic character.
But then it's also your friend, your helper.
Exactly.
Right?
So it really does mash up all of the. It's a friend. It's a representation. It's a representation of you, but it's got a mind of its own.
Yeah. This was an example of a name that was good. Because
I think it was great.
Unlike Wii U, in which we were all like, what, why? This is weird. We all liked Amiibo quite a bit.
It's fun to say.
It was fun to say. It sounded
it's distinctive.
Cute.
Yeah.
It did feel very Nintendo-y in a way, where it like kind of was like odd in a cute way, and everybody got it. Yeah. Everybody understood it right away, which was always a good sign of like, okay, this is going to be something that's going to be fun to market because we understand it. The physical thing is cool. We like that it's attached to Smash. The name makes sense. Like, okay, this is going to be a fun project versus it being like, oh no, not another Wii U situation where we had to like fight the tide of confusion, So we were feeling pretty good about this coming out of those early planning meetings and getting, then we started to get to work on the first sort of big announcement, which is around that E3.
Yes. And gosh, we keep coming back to E3 2014.
What a time that was.
But it really was like an important moment in time for Nintendo. I can't remember how many times we've talked about E3 2014 at this point. But yeah, they were first revealed in that digital event. There was the Reggie versus Mr. Iwata iconic video. Where they're fighting in Smash Brothers, and then Mr. Iwata pulls out his amiibo and he kicks Reggie's butt.
Right.
That was amazing. And then, after that, we were on the stage where I had the iconic moment.
You had to hold it up, do it again.
Getting hung up
blink, blink.
with the Mario amiibo.
Blink, blink.
Which then, after we did our thing, rolled into this longer video with Bill
Trinan. Yep.
Talking, going much more in depth on what is this, how's it going to work,
yes.
What games is it going to work for. So people got a really good taste of what amiibo were and why they should care. At that E3, we did not have any functional amiibo.
No.
So every one that we had was this like prototype that was literally carried around by a guy in one of those like metal briefcases.
It
where
looked like a mob.
Either that's full of like $1 million in cash or like some sort of a gun.
Yeah.
And he had this inside.
He had 3 of these actually.
Right.
He had 3 of these inside, and it was like nestled into this like, it was like special foam.
Perfect styrofoam.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was nestled in very, very gently into it. And he had it like handcuffed to himself, the case, because each prototype was worth like a lot of money.
Very expensive.
Like, exorbitant amount of money.
It's like a one-of-a-kind prototype.
And I remember when we were getting ready to do our little like intro to Bill's video after the digital event, he had, gently set down the briefcase and like unlocked it, and he put gloves on, and he was like opening the briefcase, and I swear I saw like a heavenly glow come out, and then he like gently lifted out the Mario amiibo like this, and then he like set it down next to us on this like table like very gingerly, and he looked me into my soul and was like, "Don't break that."
It was extremely fragile.
It's very fragile. Right. Pick it up
by the base.
By the base. Don't touch any of the things on there.
Fiddle with it.
It will fall off, and then we have lost a lot of money.
Yeah, and like these things, there was a lot that we had to do with these. They were on display. They were on display in the booth. We needed them for the round table with Mr. Sakurai. So we needed these to last.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want to touch. I don't want to touch this thing at all.
When you watch that video with Kid, he's holding it.
Maybe that's why I'm just frozen with fear.
He's holding it like this. Now we're like, whatever, like, you know.
That's why I was frozen with fear.
You were holding it like
terrified.
So gingerly, like this, like, you know. And by the way, that guy was basically like hovering over us the entire time we had these prototypes out.
We saw that guy everywhere, and he was there like. He had like a jeweler's loop, like as he was setting them up in this glass case. Yes. He was like, I need to get it perfectly to the 1/16th.
And then there was a guy next to him with that spritzy thing that was like spritz, and then you would like wipe the table, and then like he would put it down, and then he'd be like dust. And, like there's a whole. This was
this guy's life.
He got the daylight scared out of him.
Well, then so did I.
Scared him straight.
And then he scared me.
Okay,
it worked. It worked.
Yeah, but it was really, I mean, this is a pretty precarious, if you think about this amiibo, like this whole like fireball thing, it was pretty precarious in terms of prototyping it. Yeah. Like it's not like something that's super solid. But
some of them have like limited connection points to the base.
Right,
we'll show more later.
Yeah.
But that was kind of our first crash course. With that.
Yeah, and our first time like touching it and really understanding like how it might feel like in real life. Like that was our first time doing that, which was really interesting.
Right. So people were, really excited about this coming out of that E3. There was still a lot of excitement around Toys to Life. This was Nintendo doing something, quote, uniquely Nintendo.
Yes.
With it, they definitely were. The designs look great. Obviously, you can't beat the IP. So people were feeling great about that. But after that E3, it was a long time until we got much of an update, and we were working, I remember you and I were working on an event for Smash Brothers for Wii U, and it was like, we might be able to get Amiibo to have at this event so people can see it, and also like you guys can, because we hadn't seen it ourselves yet either.
The functionality. We've seen the figures, but we have never like scanned it to see what it would do in there.
Which is important for like a new category like this of like, I can't imagine every way this works. So we just had a lot of questions of like, what exactly can you do? And the information was very fuzzy up to that point.
It was also a little bit hard to describe. Like, even to this day, when you try to describe like what it did in Smash and how like it kind of had a, quote, mind of its own, like that was a little bit weird. Like, it was not as easy to kind of visualize as something else. Like, nowadays, the Amiibo functionality is pretty simple. But that first, like, foray into what this Amiibo would do in a game was like a bit more like complicated, I would say, and like a bit more involved. So it was important for us.
So we finally, and this was probably like later in October, maybe in early, it was like pretty close to when the game was about to come out.
Yeah.
And it was like we finally got to see it, and got to see a version that was not going to shatter in your hands.
Right.
And we could play with it with the game and see how the figure characters, the figure fighters
would work. Yep.
And I always thought that was a pretty cool implementation.
I thought so too. Yeah.
Of Amiibo. It's definitely one. There have been a lot of really lackluster Amiibo implementations. I thought this was one of the better ones. I was always a little bit sad it didn't take off more. It felt like it was like on the cusp of something that was like really, really cool.
But you really fight the idea of like, this is a serious game versus this is a party game, or this is like a competitive fighting game versus this is a party game. And obviously the Amiibo implementation was very much on the party game side of it.
Well, there were some cool ideas of like the Amiibo will learn your style. It will get more competent as you kind of level it up.
Yeah.
But it never really got out of that sort of novelty thing.
Yeah. I liked it because it helped me out.
I still think it's cool.
I leveled mine up pretty high.
Yeah.
Like, I was pretty into it.
Great.
Because I didn't really do well in the other parts of Smash. Like, I was bad at everything else.
Yeah.
So this was, like, one thing that I kind of was good at.
Totally.
So it was fun for me.
So we finally, got past that, and, this released alongside Smash Brothers for Wii U.
Yeah.
And there started to be a lot of chatter online because some of the products that people were buying were not matching those initial like prototypes or renders or whatever we had out there before. And so some of the ones that
Infamous
kind of
ones.
stand out are this one and this one, where like on Link, like everybody said, like, oh, it looks like he's peeing.
Yeah, the pee stick.
He's peeing his pants because
they couldn't balance him like on just his toe like that.
That was like a common theme, was like there was something that had to be added to actually stand the thing up, because obviously he cannot stand up on the tippiest...
On the tippy toe of his little boot.
The tippiest of tippy toes here, and then also like everybody's like, hey, the sword, like it's super...
It's really bendy. Because
like,
they were scared little kids were just gonna like poke their eyes
out. Like somebody's gonna do something and get poked out.
It's like a foam sword, basically.
Yeah, this is another one that was in like this Marth one, like the sword is like super
bendy. Marth one, the face is
I was just
really
gonna say,
up.
also the face is really a far cry from what they were putting out there.
Right.
Initially, and they eventually got a lot better.
They did,
with
but
all of this stuff.
It took like the first run to like come and go ish. Yeah, this face is really unfortunate.
It's a little sad.
Yikes! This is like
deserves better.
This is like someone sticker the eyes on. It was a little sad. But yeah, they did eventually get better, but there was some pretty significant. Yeah,
there were some rough things, and like even like within the office, like you said, we one of our coworkers got a Samus that had
two arm cannons,
double arm cannons, which apparently that was a somewhat more common issue.
Yes,
but sold for like thousands of dollars.
Yes,
does she still have that?
I think she has it still.
Wow.
She's gonna probably keep it. Everybody has their Nintendo retirement.
Like there were some like notable that were getting shared of like, oh, haha, look at this janky amiibo that I got. Like it's missing the legs, and it just got out there in the package into the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's hard. The quality control on these little figures was a little bit different for Nintendo, I think, than like hardware or more so like video, hardware accessories, the controllers and stuff like that. Like doing toys, doing figures was something new for them. So they really did have some growing pains. And I remember like we had to do a lot of work to like understand like, okay, well, what is the, how are they doing, fixing these issues? What is the plan? Because we were getting a lot of questions.
Yeah, it was selling really well. And obviously the association with Smash Brothers helped a lot, like we had hoped it would. But yeah, there were just some questions of like, oh, are these kind of janky? Are these going to be janky or like what? It doesn't feel like it's up to the Nintendo seal of quality.
It's true, yeah.
So what's the deal?
Yeah.
So again, at that point, we were so focused on just that initial launch that we didn't really spend a lot of time thinking ahead. And obviously, we'd only released a small handful of the characters and the figures. But pretty much soon after that, like we started, like the harsh realization settled in of like, oh, we're going to be doing these releases and reveals on a really regular basis.
And sometimes they were like a really tight turnaround too.
And as the person who was in charge of the PR for those, it was often like, well, we got to announce this. We have to do this week. It's like, I just heard about this.
Yeah. So it became like this like real like
it was a fire drill.
Timeline fire drill.
It was a total fire drill to get them out. And it was just wave after wave. And I think that was for us, going back through this timeline, like we didn't realize or we didn't fully remember how quickly things happened in the world of Amiibo. Yeah, and it just became this kind of compounding
It was like every
issue.
couple of months.
Yeah.
It was a new line or a new something that was being revealed. And so for every single time that happened, if you look at the timeline of the release calendar, we would have to do a new marketing plan for it every time. So imagine doing that every 2 weeks, and then you're doing that on top of your other stuff too.
Right.
So it became like pretty like time consuming and overwhelming.
And again, we were not selling them all at once because we really couldn't. You were kind of beholden to these stores that had this limited space that was allocated to Nintendo, and they had given us space for Amiibo, but they didn't give us space for dozens and dozens of characters. They gave us space for some at a time. So that was why it was kind of this drip feed of characters, because it was like, well, we need to sell through these and then introduce the other ones. And so as a result, like none of those runs of these characters were that huge, right? Because the intention was like we're just moving.
We got
Turn and burn.
Turn the product.
Turn and burn, baby.
And then people got mad.
Well, people got super mad.
Major stock issues.
Yeah, I mean it was a really hard problem to solve because obviously for some characters, like there was a lot of demand and interest, and obviously there were collectors who wanted to get all of them. And then of course the scalpers came up who saw that this was a big quick buck sort of opportunity, which was tricky. And it didn't help that Nintendo was not transparent at all about what was happening and when things would be available. It was just kind of left up to every retailer to kind of make up their own plan for how they wanted to release something. Did they want to do a pre-order or whatever? Like we would always go to the sales team and be like, people are really mad about this. I don't know if you're aware, but people are really mad about this.
We got real close to the sales team.
So what can we do?
Throughout this process.
Can we brainstorm something we can do to help make people feel a bit better about this? And we always heard
it's not up to us anymore.
Like the rules, like once it's in the retailer's hand, like
they can do whatever they want.
We need to be a little hands off with it.
Yeah.
And we can't be seen dictating to retailers what they should be doing with their product.
That becomes like a legal thing.
That becomes
it's called like price fixing.
Right, that becomes an issue. I was like, can we just give them like a gentle suggestion or something?
And they're like very unwilling to do that.
They did their best, but again, like when you're in sales or when you have a store, like what's the goal? Have the thing sell. The thing was selling. So for them, it was like, well,
it's not really a problem.
People are excited. People are just excited. People are just enthusiastic. So yeah, it's a hot product. Yeah. And that was always what we heard back. It's like, people are really mad.
Yeah. We never really solved it, honestly.
No.
It like kind of petered out on its own as interest died on its own. But like that initial, few months to a year of this being like the quote hot product, like we never were able to solve that problem.
And there was no chance to like stop and catch our breath because it was like next wave, next wave, next wave. Here we go. It's just it cannot be stopped.
And then we had to market it. Like there was no like, well, don't even bother marketing it because it's just going to sell out.
It was the hot new
that people product. That was the only thing that was actually.
We didn't have a lot else to talk about in 2015.
It was the only thing that was actually working.
That anybody cared about.
So we had to.
Yeah.
And so people were just mad.
Right.
Couldn't do anything about it.
So again, like it got a bit more complicated and more weird. So again, I didn't realize how quickly this happened. But in March 2015, we introduced the Super Mario series, which was the first kind of whole other series. Those are great. But we did have the Gold Mario, which I have here, still in the box. That was a Walmart exclusive.
Yeah.
So that made things even more complicated because that was the idea. It was like, well, again, we have all these figures that we want to do. These retailers have limited space. They can't take everything. So here's what we're going to start to do. We're going to start to make it specific to a dedicated retailer.
Yeah.
It's like, for us, it's like,
no!
You're making
it worse.
This is just making it worse. Like they're solving the problem through their kind of sales-oriented, like sales channel mind.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is a solution. It's like,
no, literally a team called Channel Strategy.
It's like, no, you created a problem is what you did.
Yeah, but for them, it was a solution.
For them, yeah.
For us, it was a problem.
Like we were in touch with them.
It was a communications problem.
Constantly. It took us a while to kind of break through to them that this was a problem.
Yeah.
They did eventually come to understand that and became a bit more sympathetic, but there was only so much they could do.
They couldn't do anything. Yeah, they really couldn't. They really truly couldn't do anything about it.
Which is why we're just perpetually, skeptical of future products like Switch 2, like whatever.
Oh yeah,
of like
for sure.
Can they really solve these problems?
Because at some point they are just going to give the allocation that they have agreed on with the retailers to the retailers, and it's out of their hands.
It's just going to appear for pre-order at 2 a.m. some morning, and you're going to miss it, and you're going to be mad.
And then you call Richard.
Yeah.
Gotta call Richard.
Call Wario64. That's who I'm calling. Yes.
But yes, the Gold Mario was a Walmart exclusive. The
Yeah.
Silver Mario, which
Silver
you
Mario,
also had.
That came out a few months later.
Yeah, that was at like select retailers, but it was unclear which ones.
But we're really like jumbling it up now where it's like, all right, we've got all these figures. Some are available everywhere. Some are available certain places. We did start to introduce reprints. That was like kind of an olive branch that we started to do of like, okay, we know which ones were really popular. Like we're going to introduce more of those, but those were really limited as well. So it was like you dangled the carrot of hope.
And then it goes away so quickly.
I had a second chance and I couldn't get it again and now I'm twice as mad. It was a lot of angst for that year.
Yeah.
And I was like right on that.
Yeah. You were basically like taking the brunt of all of the upset fans, and they were constantly getting like media inquiries.
Yeah.
That was
so
like,
what are you doing?
What are you doing about this? Everyone is mad.
Do you know this is a mess? Do you know people are mad?
Yes, we know, and we can't do anything right now, so go away.
Yeah.
But it was like really, it was a really like unfortunate kind of damper over something that was actually successful.
Right.
So.
Another thing I had no idea happened so soon. April 2015, Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer and Amiibo cards.
Cards became a thing.
Were introduced, so now we have a whole other form factor in cards. I have a lot of those Amiibo cards.
They're really boring.
I didn't love those. There's maybe too many of them.
There was too many. They were all kind of...
They never really did anything that exciting. So I have like a pretty big binder of... Because we just got like packs and packs.
But they weren't like... There's something about it that felt very mundane.
I agree.
It wasn't like you pulled like a cool variant or something like that. It was just kind of like random.
I didn't get the Brewster
villagers.
EX holographic.
That would be so cool.
Chromium die cut.
Some kind of like lithograph of Brewster
it was
where
all
he's
just
like
kind of
the
the
coffee's
same.
pouring.
Like whatever.
Yeah, it was really boring. So
Whatever.
no one really cared about that.
Yeah.
August 2015.
So something that we're getting pummeled, our third party team was getting pummeled, was requests from third parties saying we want to do an amiibo. How can we do an amiibo? And I think they were politely declining a lot of those, but they did move forward with this one for Shovel Knight.
Which is really cool because at the time Shovel Knight was sort of an up and coming indie game.
Yeah,
it wasn't like the Shovel Knight today that's like a juggernaut IP.
Yeah.
So they really took a chance and did something cool with like a smaller game, which it wasn't like they were doing something with like Activision or EA or something.
Exactly.
So this was really cool. This was like the first indie game that got an amiibo. And it was awesome.
The first non-Nintendo game.
First non-Nintendo game.
So in hindsight, that's like a really interesting choice that they made to go with that. And they did eventually open it up in limited measures, like very strategically for other partners. But they never opened the floodgates of anybody can do an amiibo, which I think was a good way to do it.
Right.
You famously, so that amiibo had basically leaked. It got revealed at PAX event. You had a mistake, a faux pas.
Sort of.
We were chatting with Sean from Yacht Club, who's like the head of Yacht Club, and we were like at that event, and there was like a lot of people around, and you were like, "Oh my God, your amiibo is so cool!" And he gave you the look of like, "What are you doing?" Because I think, what were you thinking? Like this thing was leaked. Let's get over it.
I mean, it wasn't that many people.
Kind of a lot of people.
I mean, I was talking to him. I wasn't really.
But you were surrounded by a lot of people. Like,
they didn't hear
oh my God, it's so cool, the amiibo, I love it.
It was fine. Sean didn't care.
Hasn't talked to you since.
He talked to me very recently, actually.
It only took 10 years.
It was a
10-year grudge.
Actually.
That's what it was.
But yes, it was hilarious that I did say that to him.
Yeah.
Before we officially announced it.
In September 2015, we had this interesting crossover with Skylanders.
Yes.
For Skylanders Superchargers, so this is the Donkey Kong amiibo. There was Donkey Kong and Bowser were integrated into that game, and they had this cool thing.
Switch it.
Where on the bottom you could actually switch whether it's an amiibo or it's a Skylander. So if you switch it to the amiibo, it's just a Donkey Kong amiibo. But if you do this, it's Donkey Kong in the Skylanders.
It's so cool.
Game.
What a cool crossover!
I need to get the other one. I only have the Donkey Kong one. I'm so mad they didn't send that one to me.
They only sent
because they knew at that point they knew I was like.
You were in.
The Skylanders.
We had done so many Nintendo Minute.
We were doing a lot of Nintendo Minute.
But what a clever little thing, right?
It's cool. I don't love this design per se. He's
this is like
Evil Knievel kind of racing suit. That's because it's supercharged. Because it's kind of vehicle.
It's got a little vehicle
based.
To it. Yeah. The quality of this is not as good as the amiibo.
It's not as good. No.
Yeah.
The Skylanders just kind of weren't.
As nice.
Quite as nice. I liked them in their own way, but they were definitely kind of
like a quality below, step below.
Yeah, once Amiibo really got going and they got nice.
Yeah.
Other notable things, September 2015. This is all still in the first year. There's the Mario 30th anniversary.
We have a whole bunch of these here. These are like the
pixel Mario.
Those are the heavy ones, like super chunky heavy ones.
Yarn Yoshi and Mega Yarn Yoshi. There we go.
Mega Yarn Yoshi now is very difficult to find.
Apparently, that's one of the more rare ones. It's hard to get.
Yeah, it's very cute.
And then, again, rounding out that first year, we had Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, November 2015, which introduced the Animal Crossing series, which was a major disaster.
Yes.
This was where it was like, we've gone too far.
We've gone too far.
Yeah.
It was a pretty quick realization when the opposite things started happening, where the retailers were like, we can't sell these to save our lives. Like they're just sitting on our shelves and basically like taking up space and collecting dust, and we need you guys to do something about this. So get going. And
that was a years long.
Oh, it was a fight. It was a battle.
It was like 5 years, and basically until New Horizons came out.
Yes.
And then there was like a renewed bump in interest in Animal Crossing.
Yeah, because the Animal Crossing games are really far in between. Amiibo Festival was very like flash in the pan, and people didn't really play that long term. And then it was just, it was forever like a curse. Yeah. Because every meeting we would go to about Amiibo, it'd be like, that's great that you're doing your marketing plan for X launch coming up, but do you think you can tag on something for the Animal Crossing? I was like, no, we cannot. No, I don't want to sell these anymore.
Bury them with those ET cartridges.
I'll buy them and just throw them away. Gosh.
And it was also like, well, we don't want to slash the price because that looks really bad.
Yeah, like, and then because we had other new Amiibo coming out.
Then it's just going to be
then
there.
That's what it is.
It's just going to be there.
Tell them to just put it in the back room and forget about it. Like they
have back to the warehouse.
They have space back there. It's not that big. Yeah. Who cares? Yeah.
There's a lot of other Amiibo that came out that like people may not know exist. Like people obviously know the Smash Brothers ones, the Mario ones. There's like the Zelda ones. There's so many of those that are great. Wanted to run through just a few that are kind of like you may not know that this is a thing. For Diablo 3, there was the Loot Goblin.
So cool.
That was released in 2018.
Yeah.
There's the Dark Souls Amiibo, which did we put it up here or not? No.
We have that one.
That's doing the sun
salutation. Yes.
QB. For Box Boy,
Japan
which
only.
Is on a lot of lists of the rarest and most expensive, most high in demand Amiibo that is out there. I sadly don't have that.
No QB for us.
What I do have though is I have the gold Mega Man.
You do.
Maybe even more special to me. This was in the Mega Man Legacy Collector's Edition. Capcom gave this to me. Thank you very much, Capcom. I love it. Have that one.
So cute.
Monster Hunter Stories, there was a series for that only came out in Japan that was pretty cool. I remember seeing that on some trips to Japan of like, oh, what's this? Oh, interesting. I didn't pick any of those up though.
Yeah, but they have like a set of those.
Yeah. Mario Sports Superstars also had Amiibo cards that were like a real kind of dud.
Really bad.
That game wasn't anything special, and they didn't make many of those cards.
Yeah.
I have an unopened pack of those that'll probably
remain
stay that way.
Unopened. Yeah. This one's cool.
The Shadow Mewtwo Amiibo card that was with Pokken Tournament.
Yeah.
That was a way to like temporarily unlock that character.
Right.
In the game, I remember that was a pretty cool card. I think I have that card, but I don't know where it is.
It's somewhere.
It might be in my Pokken Tournament game.
It might be in the game.
Case. I think it's in there.
Yeah.
The Sanrio Animal Crossing
that
cards.
was cool. I have those. You can use those in New Horizons.
Did you use those? Were they nice?
They're nice. You just scanned in the card, and then you get like the Sanrio furniture line. So like My Melody and Hello Kitty, whatever, like Karopi, you can get the furniture line, which is very cute.
I still occasionally see that. They seem to have made an effort to keep those perpetually.
I think because of New Horizons
available.
And the new Happy Home designer as well. So.
And it's just like the Sanrio, which just is ongoing of interest.
Nice.
So that's nice.
Always popular.
So maybe that's one that you have seen. In Japan, two more from Japan only. Yu-Gi-Oh! Dual Rush has Amiibo cards. That game came out relatively recently. And then Konami's Power Pro Baseball has Amiibo cards, which are neat.
I'm kicking myself now because we did not put the cereal on the set.
Okay.
The cereal's right there.
Well, it's right there. Now. You can take a picture of that too.
I will take a photo of that.
As you say, the power of editing.
The power of editing.
Yes.
That was fun.
And then the power-up bands, if you go to Super Nintendo World,
those are Amiibo.
Those are also Amiibo.
Yeah.
So, wow. Just so many interesting things with Amiibo.
Can you imagine if we never had Amiibo? Like, if we never had... It's like one of those things like the what-if scenarios. It's like, let's say, if like Wii U was... very, very juggernaut Switch level successful. And Nintendo thought, well, we don't really need anything else to prop up the business right now.
Sure.
We'll just do games and maybe we'll do the movie or do the theme park, but we don't need like this extra little thing that's kind of a headache. We would have never had it. What would the world be like? What would our lives be like?
Even worse than it is now.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
You had this foolish thought. I was like, I'm going to have a display area in my house.
I did.
For all of my Amiibo. And it's no problem how many comes out. I'll be able to add them. I'll have the space for sure.
And it was horrible.
And you got to like 2015 and you're like, I can't do it.
I couldn't do it. I had to put them all in a bin like you did.
I foolishly proclaimed when we were doing that thing at that E3 2014, I was like, I'm going to have all of these.
Yeah.
And I did for a while, but then it got a bit out of hand, and then there's all these other kind of
Now we
Japan
just get the
onlys.
ones that we like.
I do, yes.
Yeah.
I don't,
We have recently
we got
bought
all the
Amiibo.
Zelda Tears of the Kingdom ones.
Yeah, we got Hot
other
Cannon.
Yeah.
You got the Splatoon,
We got Big Man. Yeah,
Amiibo in Japan recently. So it is still a fun collector's thing, I think, for both of us.
Yeah.
I did use my Zelda Amiibo in Echoes of Wisdom to get the cute
the
costumes for Zelda. I had a lot of fun doing that. Like I do feel a little tingle.
So do you have what is your favorite Amiibo game integration? Because we've kind of glossed over like.
Oh yeah.
Yes, you can use these in a game.
You can use these
I
in
think
a game.
Nintendo's kind of glossed over that too.
I think so too.
Over the past 10 years.
Yeah. I think that the most practical thing for me and the one that I use the most is for Zelda, for like Breath of the Wild.
That's my pick as well, actually.
I don't need it, honestly. Like, yes, the Smash thing was cool. Like, yes, I liked the idea of like this more complicated thing of me like training the Amiibo and it learning my moves and it feeling like alive, like blah, blah. Like, that was fun. But there's something very cool about the simplicity and practicality of like, I scan this, I get some meat. You know, and I need it to do the thing in the game. Like, that's fine.
And eventually you'll get some, like, interesting new costume
that
you didn't have
I like
or hadn't
the costume.
seen. Yeah, those are great.
Yeah.
And it felt like you weren't just scanning it once and getting everything out of it. It's like, no, I was going to do this for a couple days, and like you were getting practical items that you needed.
Exactly. Like
so,
I know it sounds mundane, like I'm just going to the grocery store and getting the food that I need for the week,
right.
but like that's kind of what it felt like.
I remember for Breath of the Wild, that was also an extremely late announcement that we made. Of like,
yes.
So what can you actually do with Amiibo?
Yeah.
I remember like haranguing poor Chico in the treehouse of like,
tell me what
we
it
have
is.
not told anybody what you can do with these Amiibos. You're like, I don't know.
We finally got the answer though.
Yeah, we figured it out.
It was like weeks before.
It was really close.
Weeks before,
yeah.
and we were like, and also,
one more thing.
You get some meat.
Do something with
this. You get a meat. You get a coconut. It's
great. I mean, I still
great.
feel like there's some great other game integration that we just haven't seen for Amiibo. It's out there. And at this point, maybe the ship has sailed, but like that is kind of like a lingering disappointment I have of like people just settled into kind of a pretty mundane usage of Amiibo. But I'm like, there's some grand idea.
It became like an afterthought.
That really makes great use of Amiibo, and we just never got it. So I am a little sad about that.
Yeah. I wonder if there could be new life. Like, trends come back. Like, Toys to Life was certainly a trend moment in time.
Oh, sure.
And so were the plastic instruments or whatever else. Like, you know, you never know. Like, things are cyclical at times. Trends might come back, and there might be even new technology that can give us that, like, promise of what they could have been.
Yeah.
Because I think you're right. Like, there is some untapped creativity around this, but it became, like, something that was almost a burden for developers, especially Nintendo developers, because I just get the feeling that, like, it was like they made a game and then it's like
what do you do with this now?
Yeah, and then some executive is like, well, you got to integrate Amiibo, so can you just, like, think of a way? And it was, like, the 0 hour, and they're like, well, just scan it for some meat. Like, I don't know. I will say that, you know, even recently when I was playing Echoes of Wisdom, like, this was earlier this year, and you know, I went into my little bin and got out the Amiibo and, like, scanned it in, and Zelda got the cute little cat costume. I was like, this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely still, like, a little bit of magic around this idea of something physical doing something digital in your game. Like, this is a concept that is very, like, of human nature. It just is fun, you know? So, I don't know. Like, I wonder what that can translate to, you know, in the future, like Switch 2. I don't know if it's going to have Amiibo functionality or if it's going to have new ideas around it.
Yeah.
But hey.
Well, you know, now what was those dedicated Amiibo displays in a store, like those are gone. Unless you go to Japan. The situation in Japan is very different.
They have so many
They
of
have
those.
big walls of Amiibo.
That's fun.
Like Amiibo that are hard to get here.
Yeah.
They don't have these problems.
We had fun when we were looking around for Amiibo in Japan.
Oh, it was amazing.
It was really cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Those are kind of now like relegated to like display cases, or maybe they'll have like one or two. You know what's happening? Xbox and PlayStation seem to be really shrinking the amount of space. Maybe Nintendo is soon
just take over
all of this retail space, because they're like the last true believer in the retail experience.
Brick and mortar
Who
retail.
knows? They might be like, we've got all this shelf space now. We can really blow this out. So who knows what kind of idea they may have.
Yeah, they might
cooking
take their creative way of, doing such cool stuff with their own stores into like a more like, big box U.S. retail store.
Right.
Do a little mini, Nintendo Kyoto in like a Target or something. I don't know. And then have like all your stuff out like they do in Japan, right? That could be a cool future for them.
What is your favorite single amiibo?
This one.
What is your favorite single one?
I'm holding up the
Metroid?
The Metroid. This is the Metroid escaping from like the capsule. Yeah. I just love to squish it. It's really fun. This was such a cool... I just love this one so much. It has like this sort of broken glass effect. The Metroid is like crawling out of it.
And it's squishy.
It's got a squishy little head.
Yeah.
I really like this one.
Okay.
I had this on my desk at Nintendo for like pretty much, as soon as it came out, it just sat on my desk. And I would use it like as a little stress ball almost. And like when I was on calls and stuff, I would like play around with it.
Poor Metroid.
But I just really like it. What about you?
I really love the Captain Falcon one.
Because he's going to kick you in the face?
This was in the second wave, and I remember like staring at the images that we were putting out because it didn't have this.
Yeah.
And I was like, how in the world is he... It's another one with just his little tippy toe. And how is that going to work? And obviously they added the bar to hold him up, but I still think it's such a dynamic pose.
Yeah.
It was such a huge step up in quality from the first round. It really made me feel good about it. And it's like, I don't know, there's just something about this pose. I was like, I really like it. You can see his butt.
I was like, his butt looks really nice.
He's got a great butt, as we know.
Also, the back of his jacket, the detail on that really did show you that they have figured out the process.
But it's just a great pose.
More.
It's a great pose.
Yeah, now that I'm into painting these Warhammer figures,
Falcon
I'm like,
Kick.
Can I paint amiibo?
Paint amiibo. Custom. Oh, that's an interesting idea.
This kind of looks a little bit like a Warhammer figure, actually.
Okay. Make a tabletop game using amiibo, Nintendo.
Maybe make like
like Smash Brothers tabletop edition. I don't know. It's fun. They'll never do that.
That's a big idea.
They'll never do that.
Make it so that I can paint it myself.
I don't think that's going to happen.
They're not going to let you.
They're going to paint it their way. They don't want you to paint it your janky way. You're going to make a mess.
I did a good job.
So what is the future of amiibo? We want to end on this. Pondering what the future might hold for amiibo. Well, maybe I'll read these. We asked this question to our Patreon folks.
Yes.
Maybe I'll read that, and then you can add anything else you want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gave people 4 options. Said, what do you think is most likely to happen in the future of amiibo? 54% said Nintendo will continue to make amiibo here and there to support big launches. 33% says Nintendo will phase amiibo out in the next few years because they have bigger fish to fry. 9% said Nintendo will use new technology to create something better, like Amiibo 2. Oh. This is kind of old tech at this point.
Yeah, it's true.
Like this is very old. And then 4% said there will be an Amiibo resurgence on the Switch 2.
Oh, wow.
Not whopping 4%.
Yeah.
Christopher Rat says, I hope they keep Amiibo. They're cool pieces of merch. A problem facing the current Nintendo merch for just about everything, besides things like Kirby, which I'm aware isn't quite Nintendo, is that you either have low-quality children's toys, so be it, but not for me, or really expensive luxury goods, not really for the common person. Amiibo are a good in-between. That's a great point.
That's a good point.
That's a really great point.
You need to have a nice range of products.
Yes, very, very accessible to get an Amiibo for, $15.
Right.
Michael Major says, I believe Amiibo was created to try to capitalize on a trend, and because Nintendo needed to do something about the lack of success from the Wii U. I think Nintendo wants to stop doing it, but realize if they just outright stop supporting Amiibo, then it would give customers reason to lose some faith in new Nintendo products. So to maintain a good relationship with the customers, they will continue with Amiibo for a bit, but continue making less each year, featuring it less in games over time until eventually consumer interest in Amiibo is small enough that they can end support for it quietly. And then finally, Dexter S. says, I think they will strategically make them for big releases. And Amiibo is pure profit for them with big releases. With Zelda and Mario games, they can release 2 to 3 Amiibo, and that's easily tens of millions in revenues for them, even if only a fraction of the fan base buys them. That's also another... I'm going to take this away from you. That's another great point, which is if you look at a game like Tears of the Kingdom, which obviously cost a lot of money, the game cost $70 for a reason, because it's a big game that they were working on for 7 years. Like it's like how can we squeeze every last dollar out of this?
Money out of it.
That's absolutely. We have special edition. Maybe we'll have a few different grades of special edition. We'll have an Amiibo. Maybe we have this rare occasion where we can raise the price. Like it's one of those things they can do to we are recouping We're in recouping mode right now.
And you know, they've made so many amiibo at this point. They figured out the production stuff on this, you know, and they have good margins on amiibo. So you're right. Like the revenue that they get on amiibo is like very lucrative. And if it's like a very small kind of thing for them, and even like a thing where they can re-release or reissue stuff that's already existing, that's an easy way for them to squeeze some more money out of a launch.
But what do you think is the most likely outcome here?
I do think the most likely outcome is the one that everybody voted for the most.
The first option.
They'll continue making it to support the bigger launches.
I agree.
But they might not be like spending a lot of resources on new amiibo innovation, because I don't think that's a priority for them at all anymore. But yes, from a business perspective, like the idea of this being extra revenue or to recoup costs, like why not? You already have this production process and the process of making these in existence. So it's easy for them to continue doing that. People still have interest. There's still going to be a percentage of the fan base that will buy these. And it's just a good way for you to have something tied to like your next big launch.
Yeah, in hindsight, you know, starting with Smash Brothers, where the commitment is we're going to release every one of these characters, was a bit much. That was a lot to bite off, and that really led to some of the problems that we had. And it's like you can imagine a world without Smash Brothers, where it's like it kind of is closer to what we had now.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, we'll put out a few for the big launches, and we'll find cool ways to do things with those, and maybe those will be functional with different types of games, but it's not going to be just this constant flood.
Yeah.
So I think that game maybe just changed in maybe not the best way.
Right.
The perception and the expectation. It's such a Sakurai thing to do, though. We're going to do it for everything.
And I'm going to personally...
If it grinds me into dust, yes, I'm going to do it.
I'm going to lay in my bed between the hours of 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. and watch an iPad.
I'm going to clutch an amiibo while I rest.
Clutch amiibo
Squeeze this Metroid
to my chest.
To recover energy.
The one thing I do hope that they continue to do some cool innovation around is like these off-the-wall amiibos, like the amiibo power-up bands at Super Nintendo World. Like, that is a really good way for you to use that kind of technology and have it be a very interactive experience. Like the Harry Potter world at Universal also has that with the wands.
Okay.
So that is like, that's a place where people are interacting with your stuff in a physical way. So they could use whatever new technology that comes up that could make that an even cooler, more immersive experience.
Yeah.
Like I could see that being something that kind of carries the spirit of an amiibo, but in like a bit of a different way. But yeah, like in terms of the little figures that we're getting, I do think it's going to be limited to the bigger releases and not going to be a huge focus for them.
Okay with that.
And I think I'm okay with that too.
I've already got 2.5 giant tubs worth, so I'm okay
our
with
amiibo
that.
collections are in good shape.
Give us some breathing room, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, the story of amiibo.
Wow.
I guess we'll check back in another 10 years.
Oh my.
I don't know.
Be very old by
then. I don't know. All right.
Might not be like around.
Okay, well, I didn't know we were going there today, but we better move on.
Okay.
We're about to talk about some games we're playing. We got some new ones. But first, we have another sponsor to shout out. This episode is sponsored by Uncommon Goods.
Thank you.
You know the holidays are around the corners when we get that Uncommon Goods sponsorship.
The jingle bells are ringing and the Uncommon Goods sponsorship
Spark
is here.
something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Mm-hmm. Gifts that spark joy, wonder, delight, and that it's exactly what I wanted feeling.
I have been Christmas shopping, like a lot.
Oh.
And I think I've gotten 100% of my gifts so far on Uncommon Goods. I've been shopping for some friends. This
not for me, I hope.
Not for you.
We have an agreement. We have an agreement.
I'm not gonna.
No gifts.
I'm not even gonna make any effort for you this year, but I am making efforts for other people. They have such unique stuff on there that I just love. I have this one friend. And one of the things that we do, we go on vacation a lot together, and this sounds so nerdy, but one of the things that we like to do when we go on vacations, we all like to work on a puzzle throughout like we'll all stay in like a house together, and then like throughout the couple of days that we're together, we'll just have this puzzle out. And like every once in a while, people can come and do it. And I found these puzzles on Uncommon Goods that's so cool. It's a puzzle and a murder mystery. So as you're putting together the puzzle, you're like getting clues.
Oh, that's interesting.
To solve the murder mystery.
Oh, I like that. That's really fun.
I was like, that's brilliant.
That's great.
So I got this for this person. We are going on a trip together. I really got it for me, so that
that's great.
I could play with her, and
Yeah.
I think it would be so fun. But this is the kind of unique stuff that you get on there.
I do like the idea of the Christmas gift. That's a good thing to if you. Like, there's some things that's like this should be given in advance.
Oh yeah. Totally.
So I've talked about how I got
stuff.
my mom that reading set last year from Uncommon Goods, and that still remains like one of their top sellers.
Yeah.
That's still there, but they had this really cool Christmas ornament where it had this cool design, but you could customize it with somebody's name.
Oh, that's cool.
And it looked like one of those like traditional round ornaments, but it had this design that was based on somebody's name, and you could just type in a name, and it would like I typed in a bunch of names, and it all just looked really cool. But it's like it's a personalized gift.
They have a lot of
those. You can show that you put some thought into it versus like, oh, I just picked this up on the way here, like a Chipotle gift card.
That's what you're getting.
That's yes. Yes, it's really nice.
Yeah, they have a lot of gifts on there that you can customize. There's things that you can customize with somebody's hometown, things you can customize with the college that they went to.
Yes.
Like there's tons of those, which I absolutely love.
I like how it's categorized too. It's not just like here's just like a bunch of random stuff.
They do
like,
good at curating
it's like, no,
it for you.
how would I describe this person and help me find the right gift for them?
So nice.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
So, to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/Kit Krysta. That's uncommongoods.com/Kit Krysta for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we are all out of the ordinary.
And we'll put the link right over here as well as the QR code and in the description below.
Cool.
Yay!
Games we're playing.
Wow.
Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. Have you started this at all?
I have not, but
you have not.
We played the first hour together, and then you've been playing a little bit.
I've been juggling some games. So I've been playing this. I've still been playing Brothership.
Yes.
So not at the same rate I was before.
Right.
And then I finished Tetris Forever, which we're going to talk about next. Yes. So I'm really early still in Dragon Quest. I'm like maybe around like 5 hours, but I've played enough to say something about it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
you're playing on Switch.
Yes, I'm playing on Switch. You're playing on PS5, which we saw the PS5 version before.
Beautiful.
And I really stressed out over the decision, but ultimately
it was fine.
I had a couple reasons. Like they're releasing 1 and 2 later. I want to just have those all on the same platform, whether it's Switch or Switch 2. Now it's backwards compatible. We know the handheld factor, kind of the ease of the handheld, part of it. It's like I just want this just feels like a Nintendo game to me. So
what an interesting thing to say. It feels like a Nintendo game.
It just felt like something to play on a Nintendo system. So I did, and I had a very close eye on the technical side of things because I was worried, but it's completely fine.
Yeah, yeah.
The frame rate is not as smooth as the PS5, but guess what? A Switch is not a PS5.
Yeah.
There's going to be some differences.
Your thing was mainly around load times.
I was really worried about load times because those can bum me out, and the load times have been completely fine.
The load times seem okay.
Yeah,
in that first hour that we played, I wasn't bothered.
I was very happy with it.
This game does have random battles.
Yes.
So it is important for you, I think, to judge the load times because you are it's happening a lot in this game. So if you are very, very sensitive to load time, just be aware of that.
Yeah. I mean, if this was an action game, I might feel differently, but this is a pretty slow-paced RPG where you're spending a lot of time looking at a static battle screen.
Right, and you're just reading text and kind of walking around all of it.
It still is a very beautiful game.
Gorgeous.
The style is really, really great for this game. They've really kind of perfected how to cram as much detail, how much kind of visual flourish with it there. And I have gone back and watched some footage because I didn't play the original Dragon Quest III, and they've even re-released it. There's some re-released versions that are on the Switch. I didn't know about that. I might pick those up just for comparison points. I think 1, 2, and 3 they have released these updated but still retro-looking versions.
Yeah, obviously this one is
on the Switch.
Remake.
I mean, this is a very, very old game that is based on it, and it's incredible how they've taken something that looked so basic and rudimentary on the Famicom. And now just looks incredibly
amazing,
beautiful now.
And I heard the story is really, really good, and there's some a lot of twists and turns and things like that. So I'm really excited to play for the story as well.
Yeah.
I did hear like really good things about it. So.
Yeah, there are some nice quality of life things too, where you can run really fast. You can kind of save, like quick save things that people say if they're like, if it's like, oh, go to so and so. It's like, wait, where was that? It's like, oh, I've saved that in my menu. I can find that.
Yes.
Yeah, the random battles, I'm curious to see how more people feel about that, because it feels like random battles are kind of on the outs.
Yeah, it's like a
as far as
dated.
RPGs. Yeah. And I definitely have had times where it's like, it kind of feels like it's a lot, but at the same time, like, I was at a point where I kind of needed to grind. So I was like, I'm accepting of this, because I'm not where I need to be, and we would just be walking in a circle anyway, trying to grind levels.
Yeah.
So, it hasn't bothered me, but it is a reminder of like, most modern RPGs don't have this anymore.
Yeah.
For a reason.
Right.
There is some stuff in the battle system where you can. I'm still trying kind of to dial in the best way to do it, where you can either give each character direct orders, or you can kind of give them some parameters to help kind of move things along more quickly. And I've gone kind of both ways. And I think ultimately I'm going to have it for like certain characters. I'll decide exactly what I want them to do, and other characters that are just like more straightforward, like melee only.
Yeah.
Just kind of let them swing away. It's again when they start using my items, I get upset.
You really got upset when an herb was consumed without your permission.
This
You're
was
very
used.
controlling.
This was used by my healer who had MP and could have cast a healing spell, but chose to use my magic herb, and that upset me. So that person maybe is going to get reprimanded, and I'm going to be micromanaging them now.
Yeah, so you've changed it from like,
right, it's like
fight wisely to like, follow orders or whatever.
Why doesn't the AI know not to do that? If it's a healer character, come on.
Yeah, you got to program that in.
So I'm still trying to dial. You can change the speed of the battles too. I had it on very fast for a while. That was too fast. Fast. Oh. Fast is the way to go.
Couldn't read fast
Things
enough.
were happening like really fast. So where it's like, oh, I got poisoned. Wait, when did that happen? I missed that.
Oh.
Like it'll go really fast.
Oh, interesting.
So fast.
Even fast for you. You love it fast.
Well, you need to pay attention in these battles. Oh. The other thing is like you cannot see the characters in the battle.
Yeah.
Which I understand why, because the original game didn't have that. They're being true to that. But
yeah.
I like to see the characters, you know? And you kind of see them at the beginning when the scene is established, and then the camera goes in.
The enemies that
if you're just looking at the enemies.
First-person view of the
So
enemies.
that other little contextual thing of like seeing your character do an action that helps you keep track of like, okay, who's attacking now? What's happening?
It's not there.
It's not there. So you need to pay more attention. Like, wait, who did this attack? What was that?
Right.
What did they do? All that stuff. So fast.
Okay. Fast it is.
Fast is what I'm finding. You can change the difficulty and stuff. I've been on the normal difficulty.
Yeah.
I have I'm a little underpowered right now.
Mm-hmm.
But
drag around a coffin.
If you die, you have to go. I still don't have any healing items to bring somebody back to life. So
you need like a resurrection.
Drag a coffin
back to the church.
Yeah. There was a funny moment where I bought an item for my guy who was dead, and it was like, you set this in so-and-so's coffin. The game is really funny. It has this like fun sense of humor. That's very British.
Yeah, the beginning of the game too is like a personality test.
Yes.
Which was kind of fun, where you would like answer these series of questions.
Yeah,
and it tells you like what kind of person you are.
Your personality impacts certain things that happen with your character. And I think later on you can change all that. And there's other classes that I'll get access to later. But it's just very charming. Like this is like a very kind of like comfort food kind of game.
Absolutely.
Where, you know, it's pretty slow paced.
It's very cozy.
It feels very cozy. The music is incredible. Like, oh my gosh. Good. Like they've taken, you know, again, what was just blips and beeps on a Famicom, and it seems to have been performed by some symphony. I don't know exactly who they got to do it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And another little pro tip, I found, you know, you can adjust the levels of the sound. Mm-hmm. I found the default level of the music to be kind of low.
Yeah.
It was at like a 5 out of 10. I was like, well, I got to boost this up.
Crank it up.
Because I was like, I want to hear this music better. Because this music is super good.
Yeah.
And really helps with the atmosphere.
Crank it to 10.
So, yeah. So, like, I'm really liking it a lot, which is why I've been triple juggling games, which is something I hate to do.
You don't do this at all. I'm so surprised that you do that.
But it was like, I want to get in, like, a tiny bit of that every day because I like it.
Okay.
It's a good way to kind of wind down.
Good.
The other thing that I finished, so I'm going to be not triple juggling games anymore, is Tetris Forever.
Yes, I started this.
So this is the third of the Digital Eclipse Gold Master series.
These are amazing.
Maybe the fourth if you count the Atari one that they did before they started this line.
Right.
And it's been interesting. Yeah, we played them all. It's been interesting to kind of chart this as they've been doing them. This is an interesting one. So they've done the Atari one, which is a huge in-depth look at the life of a single company. Then they did Karateka, which is like
the Prince of Persia.
Single developer, single game.
Yep.
That is a bit more obscure and kind of the full range of that.
And then they did
Jeff Mittner, Llamasoft, which is an obscure developer who did a lot of games.
Right.
And then, so Tetris is not an obscure game that has actually already been very well documented.
Right.
But they do have a lot of new things to add to that. So they have like hours and hours of like the two main guys who are Alexei Pajitnov, who was the creator from Russia, and then Hank Rogers, who is kind of the business end of like, how do we get this out of Russia? How do we get it on all of these different platforms? And he's the one that I really like came out having learned a lot more about, Hank Rogers. Like I kind of knew vaguely like what his role was. Like he had this Mission Impossible kind of thing to get the game out of Russia.
Right.
But like you learn like he had a game development background himself. He made this like hit RPG. It was like one of the first RPGs in Japan that went on to become the super popular thing. And he started Bulletproof Software, which was the publisher in Japan where all these games and Tetris was originally released on. And he had this relationship with Hiroshi Yamauchi, the president of Nintendo, and he would go and play Go, which is like this like old board game with him, and they became pals over that. So they have hours and hours of new interviews with the two of them.
Right.
They're kind of on the Miyamoto Tezuka level of older guys having a cute really cute relationship.
Yes, totally.
So they've
been through a lot together. So
but they're like a really great pair.
Yeah.
And this one does go from the very early days, and there's a lot about that I didn't know of. Alexei is like a very like kind of math mind.
Yes.
And like how he was, but he had this interest in games, and he was using really kind of like rudimentary computers in the Soviet Union, and how he eventually made this game, which was great. And along the way, it's not just interviews. Like they have the games that you can play.
Right.
So they recreated the original Tetris based on they found a way to try and match what this old Soviet computer could do.
Right.
So you can actually play that, which is interesting. And they don't have every version of Tetris. Like there's so many versions of Tetris. Notably, they do not have Game Boy Tetris and NES Tetris. And I've seen a lot of people kind of being like, well, why not? Why not? It's like, obviously they don't.
Obviously they don't. Yeah.
Game Boy Tetris is on NSO. They're not going to put that anywhere else.
No. NES
Tetris is probably, I don't think it's on NSO yet. It's probably coming at some point. They're not going to give that.
Nintendo's not going to give that.
They're not going to give that to anyone else. No, it's going to stay there. So that's like a no duh kind of thing. But they do have a lot of different versions. I'd say there's at least like 10 or so, 10 or more different games and versions that are on there. They have other things that are adjacent. Like one of the stories was Hank Rogers made a Famicom Go game to kind of show Mr. Yamauchi like what he could do. They have that game that you can can play and see. So I think a lot of this one comes down to like how much deeper do you want to get into the story, because it is well documented. Like there's like a BBC documentary, there's the Gaming Historian documentary, which is amazing.
Yes.
There's the very dramatized Tetris movie, which
I was
going to say,
I watched that movie when it came out, and I was actually playing this, or playing Tetris Forever, just to compare it, because the movie is quite sensationalized, obviously, for like, for it to be a movie. But really, the story is pretty intact, honestly. Like, it's not as sensationalized as people think it was.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, I've definitely seen the Gaming Historian documentary on it, but I wanted to see more about Hank Rogers and see like how he's going to be portrayed in this, because that was his story in that movie, and just like comparing the two to see if it was like any accuracy, if it was accurate at all, or if it was just pure drama, and it wasn't really. So.
Yeah. So I think that is kind of going to come down to like, is this right for you? Is like, how much deeper do you want to get into the story? Because there are things that are already out there that'll get you like 75% of the way. And I will say, like, a big chunk of the middle of this, I found it fascinating. I don't know to a broad audience like how fascinating it was going to be as like the contractual like licensing arrangements that were made and how like Byzantine and messed up and weird
that was in the movie.
This got.
Yeah.
But this is like a major chapter of this whole game. This documentary is
that's
like,
what happened. Yeah.
Because like this guy got the license, but he misinterpreted what it was.
Exactly.
And all these people got the license, but it turns out those were actually illegal versions that were being sold.
Exactly.
And then Hank Rogers swooped in to get the rights for the Game Boy, and that became a big thing. And it's like, I'm fascinated by this, but I don't know if everybody else is going to be.
Well, then watch the movie because they make that really interesting. That exact same thing. That was like a huge part of the movie.
Right.
And I don't know, they dramatized that in a way that was extremely interesting.
Right, I was like, maybe it's just because like I've been in the industry or like I have like such an interest in this. It's like
I thought it was
game
great.
Contracting, licensing.
Yeah,
I was like, let's go.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
And it's interesting like what a mess it was and like how the government was so involved in something like this on a product that was like very much like we cannot allow our work to leave our country.
Right.
You know?
It's amazing it got out at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where we talked about this in our spoiler cast for the Mario movie of like the way business was done back then.
So different.
A lot of it was like you couldn't go with a bad license for the years and have all these versions released and nobody would realize for years.
Exactly.
That would get shut down immediately.
Exactly.
There were all these
Information
things.
is so
send your fax. Get on the
slow.
plane. Get on the plane to Moscow and hope it all works out.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Like you don't have this like quick way,
the world has
always
just
on
changed.
communication.
Yeah.
You have to have these things where it's like almost like a game of very long telephone.
So it's just an interesting look into that world. There is also one of the other people that they interview is Hank Rogers' daughter, who is now the CEO of the Tetris company, which we worked with. She was
like a little girl at the time,
when we worked on like Tetris Axis, which is the 3DS Tetris. We worked a bit with the Tetris company and kind of got to see, like they're like a little mini version of the Pokemon company.
Exactly. Yeah.
A little bit. And she talks near the end of like kind of the bigger aspirations of making Tetris this kind of like lifestyle brand of, obviously keeping the games going, but, doing things like the movie and they talked about like that silly McDonald's chicken nugget.
Oh, yeah.
And all of that.
Yeah.
So it is an interesting way to wrap it up of like what is the future. But they make a really strong point, which I agree with, which is like this is just one of those games that is like chess that like people will be playing
perpetually
forever because it's just so compelling on its own. Like anybody can learn it. It doesn't need all these. You don't need to change it. It's just perfect as it is. I agree with that.
And it's going to be around forever. You don't need to do anything
to it.
That's
why it's called Tetris Forever.
It's going to be around forever. Yeah, exactly. It's like marketing itself at this point, and it's relevant in and of itself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Speaking of digital, double digital eclipse.
Yeah, we've been hanging out over there.
You went to go see this new Power Rangers game.
I did. So I was invited to see this game, and we were able to sit down and chat a bit with the producer, who was super nice. And this game is really fun. It is a co-op, 4-player co-op game.
The beat 'em up.
Beat 'em up. Very similar to the style of the Ninja Turtles game that we played.
I think you're getting confused about these Ninja Turtles games. Which Ninja Turtle game are you talking about?
What was the one with the beat 'em up one?
Yes, Shredder's Revenge?
Shredder's Revenge.
They did not make Shredder's Revenge.
I'm just telling you that it's similar.
Oh, in that style. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
I'm just telling you that it's a similar game.
Let's not
I never
cross
said
the streams
that they
about
made,
digital eclipses.
I never said that they made that game.
Okay.
I just said they was similar in style to that beat 'em up.
Yes, okay.
A co-op multiplayer beat 'em up.
Yes. Because Digital Eclipse did do the Cowabunga collection.
They did. That's
which
different.
Is not Shredder's Revenge.
That's different. Shredder's Revenge is what I'm thinking of in terms of the style of the game.
Yes.
But what's really cool about this is it does have like the side-scrolling beat 'em up style like in the chapters, but they also do some really unique things like to change up the gameplay. So they have a couple different things that can happen, like during mini boss fights, you turn into like robots, right? And you're actually, the game perspective changes to like a 3D game basically, and you're like kind of going down this, like kind of on rails going down the street and like shooting this giant robot. And then there's another mode where you combine with your, the other people you're playing with into the big like Power Rangers robot, and then you each take turns fighting the boss. So it's like a tag-in kind of situation. So like, I go first. I try to do as much damage as possible without getting knocked out, and then it passes to you, and then you do the same thing. So it's kind of like this, kind of like a co-op in a different way.
Yeah.
So I found that to be pretty clever. Like they had a couple of different like unique modes that made it feel a little bit more than like a side-scrolling beat 'em up.
Yeah.
I watched Power Rangers as a kid, so there was definitely some parts of that I remember.
Well, I wanted to ask, like, what era of Power Rangers is this based on?
This is based on like 1990, whatever.
So
like,
they have the Green Ranger?
It's unlockable.
So that's okay.
Yeah.
Do they have the White Ranger? There's a White Ranger?
No White
okay,
Ranger.
that's where I'm like, when
Yeah.
yeah.
So you start with Pink Ranger, Yellow Ranger, Black, Red, and then you can unlock the Green Ranger.
Okay.
Yes.
Green Ranger's pretty cool.
Green Ranger is pretty cool. And then in between the chapters, you do go to like the little clubhouse where you can like chat with your friends, and there's like unlockable things that you can do. Oh, one really cool thing that they were telling me about that we were like messing around with. So they're in the clubhouse, they have these broken arcade machines. If you go and in the game find like a broken arcade piece to fix the arcade machine, you can come back to the clubhouse, or it's like a little cafe, fix the arcade machine, and there's an actual game that you could play. So
what is it?
They like made like original games. One was like a driving game.
Oh, wow.
Like a car, like you had to bomb these other cars, kind of like a Mario Kart battle mode kind of game. The other machine we didn't fix because we didn't get the part for it when we did our run. But they like literally made little mini arcade games within a game. So it was pretty cool. And like they talked a lot about how there was no Power Rangers game that existed in arcades back in that time. And kind of they always wished that there was. So this was done in that style of like, if this game existed in like 1994,
that's a great idea.
1995 or whatever it was, what would it look like? What would it feel like? Yeah. And that's what they came up with.
No, that's perfect.
And it was very true to it. It was very true to that. And it had like a lot of little Easter eggs. It had a lot of, cool little things. The fighting, the gameplay felt really fun, really easy to do some of the special moves. I really liked it. I liked it a lot, and I think we should definitely play together.
And this is coming out December?
Yes.
So we're soon?
Soon.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a fun co-op one for us.
Quite a year for Digital Eclipse.
I know, they've been busy.
These two games, the Wizardry game. Did Lamasoft come out this year? That might have come out early this year. I can't remember.
Was it earlier this year or was it last year? Late last year?
I don't remember. Oh, well. Good job by them. Briefly, check in on Mario and Luigi Brothership. This is our spoiler cast, so we're not going to get too deep. When we did the podcast last week, you did not like this game. And now you seem to be digging out of the doldrums.
Yeah.
A little bit.
When I was doing the podcast last week, I was feeling a little ho-hum about it. It was definitely kind of slow to develop. There were some pacing issues that I was just kind of slogging through it. I hit the about 17-hour mark. I'm very carefully keeping track of the time.
Yeah.
Because I have heard a lot from people that have played this game, like, oh, it gets better after a certain point. You need to keep going. So for me, it was around like the 16, 17-hour mark where I finally started feeling like I was doing some missions and meeting some characters and really feeling like the game was less of a slog. Like, I finally laughed, which was a big deal. Like, 17 hours later, I finally cracked a smile, and I actually laughed at some dialogue, which I was like, oh, well, that's nice.
I've taken Snoutlet out of my crosshairs, and now they're on Grampy Turnip.
You hate Grampy Turnip.
I really do.
So much.
I do.
I don't like it either. I make it...
I still don't like Snoutlet either.
I make it a point not to even find the turnips animore, because I don't want to...
They give you so few coins?
I don't want to encounter him, because he's going to bug me. So I'm like, I'm not going to even look for you. I'm not even going to pull up these turnips. Forget it. It doesn't even matter. I don't need coins. I have plenty of coins.
Oh, gosh.
But, yeah, I finally feel like I was doing some islands that were like interesting and fun. It was, more battle mechanics were getting added. The traversal, the bro move things that you learn to do in the overworld, like the little saucer, the flying saucer, the ball. You finally get sort of a secondary move for that to make that traversal more fun and interesting, so you're not just like walking around aimlessly. Yeah, it's starting to get a lot more fun, but it took a long time to get there.
Well, yeah. What we've heard from people who played more is like the middle section is probably the best, and then it falls off a cliff at a certain point. So we may be approaching that point. I've continued to have a good feeling about it since the moment I started playing.
Yeah, it's a 35-hour game.
It's a long game.
And I'm like,
we've got ways to go.
Now I'm like 19 hours.
I think you and I are right around the same point. Now. So. We'll see. We had a real serious conversation. Do we need to change the spoiler cast? Because I don't want to force you to play a game that you hate for that long.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I'm not. I'm definitely feeling pretty okay right now. This middle section is definitely not as bad as the first section.
Okay.
And it's actually, again, I am laughing a little bit, so that's good. And I did really quite like the chunk that I played recently. I thought they were pretty fun. So. Yeah, so I'm just worried about the end. The other thing is like the battles are pretty hard now. And if you fail, if you fail twice, I believe they let you...
Easy mode?
Easy mode.
Yeah.
I just want to put the whole thing in easy mode, but
you can't just, it's only for that battle.
So I'm like wasting a lot of time like just dying, mainly because I'm not paying attention. But
not paying attention?
Like,
what are you doing?
I was trying to like watch TV.
Scrolling TikToks or something in one hand?
I was
watching TV. All right, forget it. Moving on. Time for the news. The Game Awards nominees have been revealed by none other than Jeff Keighley himself.
Of course, the one and only.
Let's take a look. Game of the Year nominees. There's 6. Astrobot, Balatro. How do you say this? I can never know.
I don't know. Don't ask me.
Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio.
There's already Scuttlebutt.
Those are the 6 Game of the Year. Let's go through all the information, then we'll go through it. The most nominated games, Astrobot and Final Fantasy each got 7. Metaphor got 6. Balatro and Silent Hill 2, that had a really good showing, got 5. 4 nominations, Black Myth, Elden Ring, Call of Duty, Helldivers 2, and Senua's Saga Hellblade 2.
Not bad.
Most nominated publishers, PlayStation 16, mostly for Astrobot, and Helldivers, Square Enix 12, Xbox 12, Sega 11, Bandai Namco 7, Nintendo 6, Konami 5. When you're only one off from Konami, that ain't good. I'm just going to say that. Konami 5, Playstack. What is Playstack?
Playstack is the the publisher for Balatro.
Ah, thank you. Devolver 5, Ubisoft 5, EA 4, Capcom 4, Game Science 4. Thoughts?
Well, there's scuttlebutt now about the idea of Elden Ring being a DLC.
So that was kind of a late find by somebody on the Game Awards site.
Yeah.
Where they had sort of tweaked their rules.
Right.
Because when we did our predictions, we were like, Jeff's a little unclear about how he counts DLC.
Counts it, yeah.
So now his ruling is DLC is available for any and all categories.
Yeah.
So that makes this game this DLC obviously eligible. There's been a lot of debate around that.
What do you think?
I think it's fine. When we were doing our predictions, we both noted there's a clear-cut 4, and then after that, it's like it kind of feels like you're reaching a little bit for any of these games.
Right.
So I think it's fine. I think Shadow of the Erdtree is like a huge expansion that's kind of on par of a standalone game. The big debate is like you need to basically finish Elden Ring to get access to that. Is that like fair necessarily to put up with these games that you just sit down and play?
Yeah.
But I mean I think the judges will make the decision of, if it stacks up with the big games of the year, it'll make it. If it doesn't, it won't. So I'm not too worried about it.
I wasn't too worried about it either. I mainly was looking for clarification on how he was viewing this. But in terms of quality, in terms of like, does it hold up to another game? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like, a lot of people seem very, very upset about this, and I would like to know.
Well, this is the new outlet for people's anger. And
you guys are so mad.
So I think
why though?
I do think one thing Jeff could do more of
is clarify the parameters.
Is his whole entire process, because I saw a lot of people just jumping to the conclusion, oh, Jeff Keighley wants to do this, or Jeff Keighley wants this to win.
Yeah, he's not involved in this.
Jeff Keighley actually has a lot of people who are his judges who come up with all of these nominations.
He's not on that panel.
But it's buried pretty deep in his rules, and I can't recall if he even makes note of like who these people are, because when we were at Nintendo, he would tell us like these are the judges.
Yeah.
And it was a really like wide range of people from around the world. Like there's like, I don't know who this person is from this outlet, but they're representing, South Korea. It's like, okay, that's good to get a perspective from somebody from South Korea. And, and I imagine he's only kind of grown that perspective of making it very international.
I have seen people that were on the judging panel that came out to say, like, I am on this panel, let me clarify the rules.
The flip side of this is, if he puts them front and center, now he's making them the target of the harassment of the people who are angry.
Well, my point was that person got harassed.
Yes.
Because I felt like, because this conversation was getting out of control with, like, people getting mad about, this point of Elden Ring being on the list for Game of the Year. This person came out and was like, I was on panel, like, let me tell you about the process. I was one of the ones that voted for Elden Ring to get on this list, and then it was like bloodbath.
Pile-on city.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a catch-22, but I do think just the point of, like, I'm not calling my own number as Jeff Keighley. This is the game that I like. It's not the Keighley Awards. Like, I think that's a point that he could make more broadly and get that out there of, like, there's a lot of people that vote on this.
Yeah, yeah.
So there are some, like I'm surprised that Black Myth Wukong, it's not a game that I've played, but if you just look at, like, on a Metacritic scale, like, that's below all these others by, in some cases, like, 15 points. So,
we looked yesterday. I think the Metacritic for this game was 81.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was telling you that you could do a real engagement bait.
I won't do it.
An engagement bait tweet by simply saying, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom at Metacritic is 86 or whatever it is. Black Myth Wukong is 80 or whatever it is. And just leave it at that. And then walk away like the Joker. You could have done that.
I don't want to do anything like that because I don't understand why people are so bent out of shape
for it.
Right.
It's fine. I think to me, there's like... I think there are two games, I'm not going to say which, that are actually contenders to win this category. So it's like, I'm not bent out of shape about any of these. I don't care.
Yeah, it's not.
We're going to do our own awards. Those are the ones that matter. We're going to vote on a butt.
We're going to vote on a butt.
We're going to talk about a butt, and we're going to pick a butt. That's what really matters. Thank goodness Jeff has not taken Bodhi. When that happens, that's when I get mad.
When your Bodhi's not nominated?
I'm going to go at Jeff Keighley when he steals Bodhi.
Stellar Blade sweeps! Yeah. But yes, people will take it very, very personally. There is always like drama around this, but yes, that is
well, it's like this dual thing of like people say they don't care about the Game Awards, but then they're like enraged by the Game Awards. So I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. I will say one thing that I do like is that there does feel like more variety on the Game of the Year nominee list this year.
Because it was a weird year.
It was a weird year.
It was a strange year.
But that's also, a good thing. We can look at it from a positive glass half full perspective is that other games are capturing people's attention. Like when you have Balatro and Final Fantasy next to each other on the Game of the Year list, that's two very different tastes, very different scale, size type of game.
Yeah.
But they can exist together on a Game of the Year list. And that is an interesting thing, but it does show like some variety. Like, God forbid we become, every year the Game of the Year list is just like one type of game.
Right.
That sucks.
And I'm sure he'll have some comment to this effect at the open of the show. It's like, today, we're recognizing how gaming is changing more than ever. Like, you can totally see him just...
You're scripting him right
getting
now.
up there.
You're scripting him right now. It's also the 10-year anniversary of the Game Awards this year.
So
it is like it's like a milestone for him. It's a milestone for him.
All right.
All
right.
But yeah, I was happy to see some variety on that list. Like sometimes you don't see it at all, so it's not bad.
Yes. Pokemon TCG Pocket has put out a little update on their roadmap for future updates, which is interesting.
Yes. I got good at this game, by the way. Since our last...
We've covered this. We talked about this last week.
I got good. Yeah. I continue to get even better.
You continue to be good.
I'm very good now.
So they have said, we plan on adding new booster packs by the end of the year. That's great, because I think that's something that this game desperately needs. The game needs a bit more variety. So I think that's good. And it also says, we're aiming to add a new feature that allows certain cards to be traded starting in January 2025. We're planning to gradually expand the selection of cards that are able to be traded. And then they kind of make a vague comment that there's more stuff that they're working on, obviously.
Why only certain cards?
Why only certain cards?
All your Mankey cards can
If I want to trade a card, let me trade a card. I can do that in real life.
Only Mankey, nobody else.
You don't control my life, Pokemon.
Yes, they do.
You control my Pokemon card because it's in my phone. I'm going to smash my phone and get the card out.
You can't do it. You won't.
This is why physical media remains superior.
You're a chicken.
This is why physical media remains superior. I can do what I want with it instead of being stuck to the man here.
Mankey.
I want to trade my Mankey. No, I'm keeping my Mankeys.
How many Mankeys do you have?
I've got a lot of Mankeys. And I put all those little shiny things on my Mankeys.
7
They're great.
Mankeys.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I think trading is nice too because there's some cards that you just don't get, due to the luck of the draw.
Yeah.
That, maybe you have a bunch of those. That's an easy solution. But if it's not eligible to be traded, I'm sure they have some big picture vision of like, oh, the game balance or somebody could use this for ill. Guess what? Have you seen these matches? Have you seen these janky decks that people are going out there? These cheap decks? These EX decks that are just like meant to drive you crazy?
My deck?
And you just quit, and they just quit if they don't get the roll. It's not fun. So these are much needed changes. I've kind of stopped playing the competitive side. I'm still opening packs desperately because there's a Machamp card I haven't gotten.
You have an EX Machamp.
I need just the normal Machamp EX. I don't have that yet. I'm about to cash in my pack points to get that if I don't get it soon.
I really want
500 pack points. That's a lot of packs.
I need more fire cards. I have a very huge...
Are you opening the right pack for
I
those?
am, of course.
Okay.
Come on. My water deck and my...
Are you doing these decks? Are you doing these scammy decks?
100% yes. I do have the Zapdos EX card. And my Zapdos EX card will kill you.
Oh, gosh.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I do have the Pokemon EX card too, which you hate.
Which one?
The Pikachu EX.
Oh yeah, everybody's got those. People got dozens of those, so it's like don't get worried about people trade. People have the annoying cards.
I like that card.
Let them trade the annoying cards.
That card is so cute. You hate it. Okay. Anyways, yeah, but I do agree with you that I think more variety, so we can have more creativity and deck building would be better. Would be good.
Yes. Eiji Aonuma had an interview with our friend, Gene Park of the Washington Post, where he talked about his approach to game development with story. I'll just read it.
You just want to put this in the next debate.
I've never really, there is no more debate because the book is closed. I've never really made a game where you think of the story first and then go into gameplay. First, when you think of the gameplay, what you're trying to think of after that is how you can get players to understand that gameplay. The story becomes used as a vessel because it has a beginning and an end, and the player moves through it. I think it would actually be kind of difficult to do the reverse and start with the story and then try to match the gameplay mechanics to that. So I was kind of surprised at the reaction to this. Of people like, oh, that's like...
Hasn't he been saying this all along?
I think this is a pretty well communicated Nintendo approach to game development. Like beyond just Zelda, I think there's a lot of examples of them saying like, yeah, this is how we make games. This is the Nintendo way.
Right.
But it seemed to be news to a lot of people.
Seriously?
So patreon.com/Kit Krysta if you'd like to become a better Nintendo fan, we can tell you all about that. And there were some other people who kind of spoke up of like, well, I make games and we actually do it the other way, and those people got absolutely shouted down. So as usual, people continue to be
mad,
absolutely furious,
enraged
about things
that have nothing to do with them and they have no expertise in.
Comments of a video game story get furious over that. Sure. But yeah, that's all I had to say about that. Was like I thought people knew this already.
This is the party line, guys.
Yeah.
Like this has literally been the party line for like 20 plus years at this point. Yeah, I don't know. That's it. Yeah.
Lastly, Phil Spencer's been on a bit of a press tour in New York. He was making a lot of stops last week, saying all sorts of things. This was kind of aligned with their new marketing campaign. This is an Xbox, which some people had some critical things to say. What do you think of this ad campaign?
I kind of see where they're going with it. Like, I see the spirit of it, but I feel like it's obtuse and people don't get it.
I think it's too soon for them to do this
and
ad
also
campaign.
It's a little too soon.
Especially when a lot of this seems to be based on their cloud streaming, stream something. But the cloud streaming is still very much in a beta state.
Right.
It's not finished.
And also people had all that stuff earlier this year about them getting out of hardware and yada yada. And then they did so much stuff with that, with their own like podcasts to try to combat those rumors. and then going into an ad campaign that basically goes against that again. This is the thing with Xbox is it causes confusion, and people just need you to tell them definitively one thing. What are you?
So I think this is where they would like to be in the future, but I don't think they're there to the extent that you're going to run a huge $1 million ad campaign, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then on his press tour, he did say, like, we are committed to doing more hardware.
Yeah, so he's now having to clarify that.
And those articles were getting retweeted by the Microsoft people that I follow on Twitter to the extent I was like, oh, they're worried about this.
That's a classic move.
They're concerned.
Yeah.
They want to make sure
when the marketing team starts retweeting stuff.
Yeah, they're concerned. They're worried.
Yeah, they're a little concerned.
Yeah, that's something to take note of. He said that they're probably not going to do a mid-cycle refresh like the PS5 Pro. He said, we think about hardware that can create unique value for our players or creators on our platform. We don't need to do incremental hardware for our own benefit. Ouch. Take that.
Shots fired at Sony, okay.
Yeah. He did talk about, he said, we're not going to grow the market with $1,000 consoles. It's kind of true. More shots fired. And then he did say that they were going to do something with a handheld in the future. But it was like
years away, though.
The actual quote that they have is so limited. I was like, I wish they would have included more of his specific comments on this. Bloomberg just says, quote, the expectation is we would do something, end quote. And then they say, in the handheld market. But such a device is still a few years out. So I really would have loved to have a bit more context of what he actually said. If Sarah Bond said that there would be a hardware announcement this year, this holiday season, and I'm wondering what happened with that.
I guess they're just trying to backtrack away from that?
Did that get away from them and it's not ready? Is that still, it's awfully late? Is that going to be at the Game Awards? But what would it be? I think everybody presumed
thought it was a handheld.
It would be a handheld.
Yeah.
But if it's a few years out.
Or maybe is it a cloud streaming?
Maybe they're like doing the semantics thing where the handheld is like actually an Xbox in a handheld, whereas they have some like PlayStation Portal.
That's what I was thinking
gizmo,
too.
And it's like, oh, that's different.
Backbone type.
We didn't say that. That's different. Somebody's going to be confused. You just bought a PlayStation Portal.
I did.
Did it come?
Not yet.
What's taking so long?
I don't know.
Oh, that's exciting for you.
I'm so excited.
What took so long?
I don't know.
Okay. I don't know.
I don't know.
Why was Phil Spencer doing all these interviews?
Well, it is the holiday time, so he's probably on like a big holiday press tour.
He's in search of the quote seminal story, as they call it. The seminal story.
They call it a seminal. That just sounds dirty, right? It's not that kind of story.
It's like we need the the all-encompassing, tell the big picture of what we're about with our big shot is going to sit down with you.
We need to get out there with the expanded media outlets, and we're going to talk about our business priorities moving into the holiday season and into the next year.
We would do this with Reggie. We're going to do a week.
The time that
we're going to do a week in New York with Reggie ahead of Black Friday, drum up some interest, get some quotes out there. Yeah, he's going to say some provocative things.
He's going to get on CNBC and talk about how Link is hot.
Yes.
That
worked.
It works really well.
That worked.
And Reggie
people bought those Zelda games after that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That worked great.
That totally worked.
He single-handedly sold millions of copies of Zelda by telling everyone that Link was hot. Single-handedly. But yes, that is a very PR thing to do with your execs in this time frame. And he was out there talking a lot about their upcoming Indiana Jones game as well, drumming up.
Yeah.
They need that one to be a hit.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's going to be their big holiday game. So, yeah, he's doing what he needs to do right now to make sure Xbox is still top of mind for the holidays.
That's the news. Let's get into some questions from our Patreon community. We get them all from our Patreon community. If you want to give the gift of a Patreon subscription to Kit and Krysta, you can do that now. That is something that Patreon recently added. You can go to patreon.com/KitandKrysta/gift and gift any number of months of any number of membership tiers to anybody you would like. Isn't that nice?
Give it to yourself.
That's an incredible gift. That's a different URL. You remove the gift if you're doing that, to do it for yourself. But we're very happy to have that, and we hope to see more of you join our community this holiday season.
We've seen people that have joined recently that said, I got this as a gift from XYZ.
From my friend who's already here in the Discord.
They really wanted me to be here to check out your amazing community.
That is sweet. I love that.
Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice. You get lots of cool stuff. Early access, bonus Q&As. Be part of that amazing Discord server. It's so much fun.
First question is from Love My NES. Following the January 2017 Switch presentation, Nintendo released a commercial for the Super Bowl with Imagine Dragons, and the commercial had me more excited for the launch of the Switch than the actual Nintendo presentation. The song, the gameplay, and everything about that video was pure hype. Why are you laughing? Do you remember that commercial, and did staff inside Nintendo know how great that commercial was? On a side note, looking back on your years of gaming, was there ever a commercial you vividly remember that made you want to buy a specific game or console? Why are you laughing?
Because this was such like a
Why are you laughing?
A thing that was, oh my god, you have to tell the story about the Imagine Dragons.
So you said you were not in this meeting.
I don't think I was.
Okay, so I was.
You were in this meeting.
I was in a meeting, which maybe this was for like the people. I don't know who was in the meeting. I think it
was like directors.
Or maybe you were out that day.
Something. Yeah.
But it was we're gonna preview our new Super Bowl ad featuring this song, featuring Believer from Imagine Dragons.
Yes.
And just to get everybody in the mood to take in this commercial, we're gonna play the song that you can sit silently in this conference room and just listen to
listen
for 4 minutes. It was a listening session.
Did anyone start to jam out?
So we did that, and it was like, what do you do like when somebody's playing a song for 4 minutes when you're in this big conference room?
You didn't jam out.
You just like twiddle your thumbs and like what are you gonna do?
You didn't start singing along.
It's really awkward.
You didn't know
I've never
the
heard this
words
song before. It was
to
really
Believer.
It was really awkward though.
Yeah.
It's super awkward. Don't do that.
And
doing a meeting.
Don't forget that the people that were working on this, they're old and lame. And they don't know anything about.
But this is also like the thing that they had been working on for months and months, and they had spent all this money on, like millions of dollars. So it was like, you are not ready for this incredible thing that I am about to show you. Let's milk this. The big reveal is almost here. And it's like, it's a commercial. So it's like, yeah, it was a cool commercial. It was in the Super Bowl. So it was like a big deal for them. But it was like, they really...
The group listened.
It's like, can we just see
was a little bit awkward.
Can we please just see it? So yes, Love My Ennis, we were fully aware.
We were fully aware. They were really, really, really into this. This was a rare thing for Nintendo to have like a huge, celebrity, and then have like, license a
big
licensed song. Yeah. Like that's not something Nintendo typically does in their like ad campaigns. That's very expensive. It's something that doesn't really happen very often, or if at all. They've written original songs for commercials, but having this big sort of licensed song was really rare.
Right.
And so they were really excited about that because they had gotten to work on something that was like really, really different and cool. So I was happy for them for that purpose. But yes, it was a little bit much. And to be like a Debbie Downer, I don't really like this song. No,
What?
No. Do you like the song?
What? Not particularly.
Aha!
But it has become just like the go-to song for anything in games. It really has.
It's a little
Imagine Dragons has really like...
You worked with Imagine Dragons.
Well, listen to our Jeff Keighley episode if you want to hear a great story about Imagine Dragons.
Yeah, because they were early days.
With Koji Kondo, yes.
Early days Nintendo
I met those
fans.
guys. They're very nice guys.
They're very nice.
Huge Nintendo fans. Great guys.
Great people. I'm not really a fan of the song.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't as like hyped about this commercial as others were. But like in the public, people love this. People were like gaga.
It worked.
Over this.
Yeah.
So.
Super Bowl. Ferlio asks, how is it like to get a promotion at Nintendo? Did you have to carefully plan a strong case for your request, and did promotions come with hidden costs, like increased pressure and less work-life balance? I'll let you answer this because you already look traumatized.
Oh, boy. I don't know. Do I have to?
Yes,
okay, fine.
You do.
Let me hold the Metroid again and squeeze it as a way to heal from this horrible experience. Yeah, Nintendo had a really kind of a sick way of doing promotions, and they did a lot of like brainwashing where they really made you feel like if you weren't on some kind of promotion trajectory, you were failing. And that part of it is really untrue. Like a lot of people should and can be perfectly happy getting into a role that they're really good at, they're really comfortable with, they have good work-life balance, and they want to stay in that role. There is no shame in that. In fact, I think that's very admirable if you're able to find yourself in a place where you're really happy with the role that you're in. But Nintendo had a really like cutthroat system where if you weren't always climbing, that means you were failing. And so you were like just so desperate for these promotions. And the first like sort of like I started as like an administrative assistant. So the first like 3 or 4 promotions were pretty easy. Like you go from that to a coordinator to a specialist to an assistant manager. Those were like pretty easy, like as long as you're getting like top reviews every 2.5 years or so, you are getting promoted to that next level. So that was okay. Then you hit this cliff. We call it the assistant manager cliff, where as soon as you like try to jump over that gorge, it's like really impossible, and they really start to make it difficult for you to get there. And a lot of times, like people have not ever gotten there.
Yeah.
And it becomes a really high pressure, like emotionally draining thing. Your manager, you were my manager at the time when this was happening to me, has to do so much to help you. And if you didn't have a manager that was doing this for you,
you had no shot.
You can forget about it. You have no shot. You have no shot. And even if you were a manager that was trying, if they like didn't really respect you, you also had no shot. So my direct report was producer Stephanie, who was an assistant manager until she left Nintendo. She never got promoted to manager. I tried desperately for like 5 years to help her. And no one cared. No one listened to me. No one respected me. So they were like, I don't care about you or your direct report. Go away. You were able to get it for me because people liked you. So that was good. So I got over that hump. But oh man, that was rough.
And now producer Stephanie is like a very high role.
Oh yeah, she's
at a big name company.
She makes more money than all of us combined now.
So it's not like it.
It wasn't her.
Obviously, nothing related to her.
Nothing to do with her.
It was just this weird system. She was a victim of the weird system.
The system was awful.
And they only did it once a year.
Awful.
So if you missed your shot for a year, it's like, well, try again next year. It's like, that's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a really long time for somebody
really
who's kind of got their eye on something. And it was the same thing where I was like, okay, well, what do I need to do? Like, nobody could ever tell you what you need to do.
Yeah.
It was always like these vague things. It's like, I don't really know what exactly I need to do. Or like, maybe I feel like I did, but based on like that somebody else had a different expectation and you didn't. Or you need to get tested you need to challenge yourself. You need a big stretch project. And it's like, it just feels like you're just like putting out more like fake stuff.
Roadblocks for no reason.
To make it impossible for this to happen.
Yeah, it was a really bad situation. People were very like stressed out. They were wound up really tight around promotions. There was a lot of times where people like just had like serious, issues, health issues related to not getting promoted, or just this sense of like I'm a failure because it's been 2 years and I haven't gotten this promotion. All of my peers have gotten this promotion. What's wrong with me? Like there's so much pressure. And then like there's also this like horrible system that they had where they basically will go into a room and like rank you. The person that was getting promoted wasn't in the room, so at least you didn't have to hear it. But like, yeah, there was a room full of directors and above that would basically put your name on a board and be like, let's talk about Krysta and let's like list the things that she is terrible at and like list the things that she's good at. And then we'll like decide by committee if she should be promoted. And that's like just terrible. Like, oh my God. Doesn't that feel like a reality TV show?
Look what you've done, Ferlio. We have to move on.
They shouldn't do that to people.
Ferlio, no!
You shouldn't do it. Don't do it. Companies around the world, don't do this, please.
Gob to Illimer's next. What is considered a successful game for Nintendo? Is it based off sales within the first couple days, weeks, months, or is it measured based on lifetime sales? If a game is required to sell about 1 million copies within a certain time period, but sells only 600,000 during a set launch window, but manages to hit the 1 million sales goal months or years later, is it then considered a success? Or is Nintendo only concerned about sales within a given launch window? Thank you.
Nintendo would do this thing where we would have a sales forecast, and if you blow past it, they would move it.
Yeah.
That was always the case. It's like, okay, the Smash Ultimate sales forecast was like really aggressive, obviously because of the Smash game, and we did good. Like we did really good.
You got there.
We got there in the allocated time.
And that was a big I was like, oh my gosh, you got there.
It was a huge milestone. Yeah. We were joking around that I had like that thermometer in my office that I would color in every week when we got the sales update. And yeah, we ended up like feeling pretty good about ourselves that we got there. And then like the week later, they were like, oh, we moved the goal. So you actually didn't get there and we need to do more.
Now you're failing again.
Oh.
Better get on that.
I remember Monica and I worked on that campaign together. And when they moved this year, her and I just were like, forget it, we're leaving. So we I think we went to lunch or something because we were like, this is ridiculous. We're not standing around for you to move the forecast. It was really funny though. But yeah, they were very aggressive with their sales forecast. I think the other thing that Nintendo really thinks of as like a successful launch is like sustainability. Like a game could sell really well in the first 3 months, like the launch window, but if it kind of falls off a cliff, then the panic ensues.
Yeah.
And then there's panic about oh no, how can we drum up additional interest in this? They call it a PDCA campaign.
Plan, Do, Check, Act.
Yes, so you would have to look back on your campaign and think is there any gaps?
It basically just means do more work.
Do more work. Yeah. Do more work to sell more of these games. We were really
focused on the first 3 months. That was usually the window that we were looking at, and then after that, we barely heard at all. So these games that had long tails, you would get it up oh wow, look at that game go.
Yeah,
that's
Mario
nice.
Kart.
Yeah,
remember
every
month we'd be oh Mario Kart still cashed out.
We were not getting regular updates on that.
Yeah.
And then some games like big games like Smash would have first weekend. We're really keeping a close eye.
Yeah.
But to be fair, there were other games where it was we know this isn't going to set the world on fire.
Right.
And the goal was pretty low and pretty reasonable. It's okay.
Yeah.
At least we're being somewhat reasonable about this.
Yeah. No, they were not unreasonable.
Yeah.
But they would just move it a lot.
But for those big games, they were very aggressive with those big games. We are pushing this as far as we can.
Smash was the biggest ever, and that was a high pressure situation for sure.
Last question's from Tuskoob. While a major boon for consumers, do you think backwards compatibility is a major drawback for console manufacturers? Namely, for Sony and Microsoft, do you imagine part of why the PS5 and Xbox Series X haven't shifted as much is because they made it okay for consumers to keep writing out their old systems for so long? In retrospect, cutting off the PS3 from the PS4 helped set them apart by forcibly giving that system its own library of games. The PS4 also famously received a lot of remasters, as people criticize Sony for doing with the PS5, but is this because they're already playable? How do you imagine this could affect Switch 2, given how it's affected PS5 and Series X? If not at all, what makes Nintendo different in this regard? I think there's a lot of layers to this.
Yeah, there really is, and I think one thing that's just really different about this particular generation with Switch is that the system is still so active. So you really do have a really good reason for backwards compatibility here because people are still so engaged daily with the system. They still have such a huge backlog, and you really want to make sure that those people move over to your next hardware. And if they're so active on the previous one, they may never move over if you don't give them this, if you don't have this feature.
Well, this new challenge now that Sony had about all these players stuck on a PS4 because they're playing Fortnite and Minecraft and whatever else, that's a new problem. And it's true, these games don't get huge changes. A PS4 Fortnite is going to look pretty much the same as a PS5 Fortnite. I thought it was hilarious when they're Fortnite's going to have PS5 Pro support.
You're
it's going to look the same.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yeah.
So, and they can't really incentivize people to, move over to the PS5 version of Fortnite. You'll get X, Y, and Z. They don't really do that.
Right.
And now, Fortnite on a Switch to a Switch 2, that's going to be a noticeable jump.
Right.
And some people are I want to do that. Because the Switch version of Fortnite's a little shaky, especially at this point.
Right.
So that's just a whole new factor that these companies need to think about of how can we work with these partners to give them incentive to move up? Is there anything we can do? Can we find a way to give them a bigger bump visually so it's more compelling? That's one thing. The other thing is there is a physical components factor that kind of plays into the whole equation of do we need to keep the architecture the same so we can still play these games? I'm not the right person to be talking about this, but Sony has run into issues where it's the PS3 had the cell processor, and that was this weird, bizarre thing that they can never make compatible with anything else ever again unless they literally put a cell processor in there. So there is that kind of factor of is where we're going with this, does that actually line up with where we were? Is there a next evolutionary step from that. And if it's not, sometimes you just need to say, like,
that's it.
We
have to go a different direction.
We have to go in another direction. It's going to kind of break some stuff. And like Xbox did a lot of work. They did that, and then they're like, well, we did software emulation, but it was a lot of work for them.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty, like, it's for consumers. It's like, yeah, we want this. It's a slam dunk.
But it's like a nuanced
for
thing.
These companies, it's not necessarily a slam dunk, and they try hard. And then the question is like, well, how long are people playing these games? Are they playing them too long that it becomes this issue? It's tough.
And then eventually you might get into a situation if you're too far gone, like you got to shut down like the 3DS eShop or whatever. And you get into that kind of situation when things get far from where it started. So it is one of those things where as a business you have to make some decisions. But in this case, Nintendo had a really good reason to make that decision. So all right.
Them's the questions.
Wow. What an episode. Wow. What a fun time celebrating the anniversary for Amiibo. Thank goodness I had
you needed it, it seems.
My stress ball Metroid Amiibo with me today because Frulio asked the world's most loaded question. Thank you so much. But yes, shall we shout out some wonderful Patreon community members?
Let's do it.
Starting with Aaron Hash.
Aaron Hash is
who has been
surrounded.
stacked.
I thought we were going to stack Pokemon. We got
Pichu.
Zero Suit Samus cheese.
We
got Meta Knight. What?
Her butt is facing the camera.
Oh my God, who did that?
Me.
What in the world? That's for you, Aaron Hash.
She looks good. Aaron Hash, thank you so much for being the best boss ever. Superstars.
Yes.
Ben Eichhorn.
Mara Mayhem.
Eigenverse.
Kiss My Flapjack.
Mike Chin.
Roy Eschke.
Switching it up _
VGM Life.
Link, the hero of wins.
Angela Bycroft and her pig Molly.
Thomas O'Rourke.
Kyle LaBeouf.
Roberto Nieves.
Frederick Ulf Conradson.
Andrew Uhas.
Chili.
Simon.
Crushuri.
Master Discord.
Ash.
Ajay Kunles.
And 40 Gig.
Yay! And the One Up Club. Aaron Burgundy.
AdCool 2000.
Ali Alejandro.
Astro Dev.
Awesome 46.
Bates.
Ben GB.
Big N Gamer with a Y.
Book 'em, Dano.
Brad SF56.
Brandon Cavapil.
Brent Dennison.
Brovak Novak.
Bruce Dash.
Cameron.
Chadir.
Chelly Squirrel.
Crispy Saurus.
Christopher Lay.
Captain Alex.
C. Roper 17.
Dallas E.
Dachshund.
Doinko.
Eccentric Tony.
Echo Ladare.
Elite Peach.
Espars 50.
Fart Priest 69.
Fairbound.
Fernie and Jess Forever.
Fox Deploy.
Funky Hand.
Garth the Wolf.
Gartooth.
Guilty Phoenix 42.
Handheld Gamer.
Happy Sloth.
I may have made a mistake.
Iris Merritt.
Jay Rando.
Jack Hoving.
Jameson Eisenberg.
Jeffrey Hernandez.
Joe Encarnacion.
Jonathan Rowe.
Jordan Collette.
Jordan Hemmerly.
Joshua Clements.
Juji Fruit.
Justin Lemminger.
Kawa 2796.
Keith Kwan.
Kevin Delane.
Kilo Kibo.
Christopher Kid.
Christopia Party with Me.
Kyle Gamerberry Rookie.
Kyle Kretzer.
Lazy Cat for Coffee.
Lex.
Link 9898.
Lo Mikey.
Lit.
Luigi 53.
Lynn.
Macho Potato.
Mad Dog 5981.
Magnificent Easy G plus Callie Marie.
Mako 56K.
Mario Man 392.
Marky Man 64.
Maverick Nate.
Mecha Dragon 101.
Megan.
Michael Cravens.
Mikey.
Mr. Ryan 07.
Motomania.
Mr. Andy Pong.
Mr. Baines and Dip.
MSM Poke Gamer.
My Tran.
Nasir.
Naif E.
Ninja 11.
Noah San.
Bangy.
Patrice Millette.
Paul.
Paul Gill Network.
Prime Factor.
Prince Charmless.
Pure Jock.
Raver.
Rain Tech.
Random Bystander here.
Record Rumble.
Ryuji Utsuha Oku.
Riot 1.
Rob.
Romsky 113.
Rocks.
Ryanetta.
Sharif Jackson.
Shinryu.
Schmales.
Slowbro.
Schnazzle.
Spacey Poo.
Spicy Munchkin.
Steel Citron.
Pseudo Priest.
Tales of Link.
Tay 120 and 64.
Teal Fox 64.
The Keggers.
The Shark Among Men.
Thomas Alvarez.
Three Rivers.
Timmy V.
Torcheeks.
Totally Joette.
Travis Torline.
Trajowie.
Tugs Puppy Bear.
Tusku.
Tyler Geis.
Uncle Jungle.
Video Game Stupid.
Vitch Michter.
Viridian.
VirtualBot.
WG Grizzy.
Wayu.
Wicked Davy.
Will Johnson.
Zelgaroth.
Zapatty.
Zero Link.
And Zroid.
It was Aaron Hash's birthday this last
was
weekend.
Aaron
so we had a
Hash's
special
birthday.
celebration for him.
Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. to
Birthdays
see.
are a big deal in the Kit and Krysta community. Lots of celebrations all around. Yes, if you'd like to join us, we are at patreon.com/Kit and Krysta. You can get tons of things like early access, exclusive behind the scenes, bonus Q&As where even more juicy questions are asked, and maybe Krysta has another nervous breakdown. But yeah, It's wonderful and fun.
If you're watching this on video, please subscribe to this YouTube channel, give this video a thumbs up, and leave us a comment with your thoughts. If you're listening on audio, you can also subscribe, give the podcast a 5-star rating, and leave a written review if you please. That really helps us out.
Yes, and we're on the socials. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Blue Sky, and Threads. Yes.
Making our way on the Blue Sky. Yes. It's going great.
Blue Sky is getting more fun for me.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that.
I like it so far. I was like very skeptical. Anyways. Okay, we're going to leave now. Bye.
Bye-bye.